Good morning and welcome to the Oskar Quentin Show, where I debate politics with strangers on TikTok Live. We also talk about other things. Sometimes the show goes off the rails. Today's Father's Day, so happy Father's Day, everybody. Call your dads. If you're a long-time watcher of the show, you know I don't have a dad to call, so I'll be calling my mom, doing some grieving and stuff. I think the sign is going to upset the callers today. We're going to talk about Daddy Trump on Father's Day. Well, I don't know. I feel like whenever I think that the sign is going to be particularly offensive to the MAGA chuds, I think, well, usually I'm wrong. Usually then that's just a day where the prompt doesn't come up. It was kind of wordy. I don't think I've ever had this many letters in the prompt, but I don't know. I'm getting better at the handwriting. Somebody asked me what font it was. It's this font. Big Sharpie font. We're going to talk to Colin. Show's getting started right away today. Hello, Colin. How old are you?
21.
Are you a Trump supporter?
No.
Okay, I am looking for some Trump supporters to talk to, so I'm going to disconnect Colin, and we're going to remind everybody that for the first hour and a half of the show, I'm reasonably strict on trying to get a debate going. But I'll say good morning to everybody. Who do we got? We got the mods in. Got Raven and Will and Mava Avery and Jay, and who are the regulars? We got Amber, Agent Dark Booty, hello. We got Ben, Chris, Sandy, hello. Who's over on YouTube? We got William Van Wagner, good morning. Meat Standing, says W Start indeed. Man, I'm disappointed it wasn't a debate. I do love when the show starts within the first 60 seconds. The viewership's been good enough that's been happening more and more lately, which is great, just for the quality of the VODs after the fact on YouTube. Oh, see, I forgot. I've been trying to say it right at the beginning lately, but I forgot because I was talking about Father's Day. If you're watching this after the fact on YouTube, you can find a pinned comment that'll tell you when the calls start, and you can find the start times of all the oppositional calls in the description below the video. I've been slow on getting those timestamps in the description lately, though I have had some help from members of the Discord, so shout out to the Discord for helping me with tasks when I'm busy, because it has been a busy couple of days for me. I'm very behind on getting my clips edited, but oh well, that happens sometimes. What's the over-under on how many maggots call Trump daddy today? Says Will in the chat. Somebody keep a tally, because there are Trump supporters who seemingly unironically call Trump daddy. Like, that's Daddy Trump. He's going to take care of us. Like, they don't. I mean, I'll give them a point for being secure enough to say that sort of thing. I'll tell a joke at my own expense of that variety sometimes. And I do want to give credit where it's due if people are able to be silly about themselves in that way. But obviously, I think that if you think Trump is that sort of role in your life, you're delusional and probably a bad person. But that's the purpose of the show, is to try to understand people who think that way. Are you delusional, or are you a truly bad person? I think if you're calling Trump daddy, it's going to be one or the other. I suppose I'll say hi to all of the Dean. What is going on? My screen just went like... This keeps happening where my screen grays out, but I'm looking at the YouTube feed, and the YouTube feed is not grayed out, but the rest of my screen is. Let me know in the chat if the screen is grayed out. I might just have to deal with this, and then maybe my PC just needs a restart, and I'll do it after the show. Should have restarted the PC before the show, because I ran into this problem and I was able to get it to go away. But if I just move the window, it goes away. People let me know if you saw anything. The video didn't go away. It just gets a little bit washed out. Like the contrast gets bumped down or something. I don't know. Generally speaking, over on YouTube said, oh my god, I totally forgot to like the stream until now. You can like the stream on YouTube. That does help it out. Yeah, people on TikTok are saying it's fine. Yeah, funny little tech issue I'm having, but I don't think it actually affects the stream that goes out, that gets sent out. I think it's just a local graphics issue. Okay. Yeah, I'm at kind of a loss for words there. I guess I'm a little distracted. It is a sad day, Father's Day, when your father's dead. I don't know. Maybe my wish for Father's Day is that nobody's mean to me about 9/11 today. But we'll fucking see. Father's Day, and you're worried about a Trump supporter. Magical Wizard, I feel like if you're laughing at me about that, I don't know, maybe you and I should have a conversation. People probably are going to be mean to me about my dad today. That's okay. I think if my dad was alive, he would want me to leverage his death for views. I think my dad was kind of a grifter. He was a stockbroker. He got in some trouble with the law for some things. My dad wasn't the best dude. I think he would definitely support the grift. I think he would consider it an afterthought that I'm doing some good. It's kind of the other way around for me. But yeah, I think that my dad would feel very honored by me leveraging the fact that he's dead to make the Father's Day show good. Because at the end of the day, my dad was a bad dude, but he was a good father. You know, he taught me how to fish. He taught me how to walk. You know, he gave me some values that I hold pretty dear, even if some of those values came from learning a lesson watching him misbehave. And above all else, I know that he would be really, really proud of what I'm doing. So I was lucky enough to have the foresight, knowing that he was in such poor health and then he was just going to drop dead of a heart attack eventually, because that is what happened. That I had all those difficult conversations with him, because there was a bunch of unfinished business from my childhood and stuff like that I was able to talk about. So it's been like 7 years, but I can say that I don't have anything there's nothing I wish I told him that I didn't tell him, which is just such a fortunate thing for a person to be able to say about somebody they're grieving for. But I've lived enough life since then that there's a bunch of shit I'm really sad he's missed. And this thing that I'm doing is one of those things. So, fucking excuse me. Because he'd be so goddamn proud. He'd be so fucking impressed by these numbers. I'd be texting him all there's like Trump percentages in my fucking... A friend of mine said, Oscar, you got Trump percentages in your analytics, because I'll have like... My Facebook account finally blew up. I have like almost 50,000 followers on there. So there was a point where like my month over month figures were like, oh, you're up 87 million %. I was up 87 million % month over month on Facebook in like views or followers or something. I don't remember what it was. And it was just because I had no activity on there. And then I blew up, and the next month it was big. And like, that was just one of the moments where, like, still to this day, I have the like impulse to text a picture to my dad. Because it's just, like, that's fucking hilarious. He'd love to see that my stats were up 87 million % on Facebook month over month. And then, and of course then a week later that number dropped down, because then some of the success bled into the previous month, and it's funny that it wasn't a glitch. My stats just were up 87 million % month over month, which is very, very funny. But yeah, I wish I could tell my dad that, that like millions of people listen to me yap every month. Like, the number of unique accounts is something like 5 or 6 million a month. It's hard to tell how many unique people there are between Facebook and Instagram, where a lot of the activity is, but... Fucking studio doesn't have tissues. Yes, it does. Found it. All right. I'm gonna take my fucking cry break at the beginning of the show on Father... Fuck. All right. Back to chuds. Yeah, Synapse 101. Like, you're in the chat, like, fucking making fun of me for being sad on Father's Day because my dad's dead. Please call me and let's talk about it. Where is he? Can I invite him? Let's see. See, I don't even care about the dead air. He's just like... See, that's the thing. That's maybe the thing that's wrong with me that makes me good at this. The little glitch in Oscar's brain is that, like, I'm sitting here having a cry about my dead dad, and this guy's making fun of me. I want to talk to him. I want to know what he's like. I want to ask him about his values. Where is he? Is he in the invite thing? Somebody invite... Who the fuck was it? Where did he go? I don't know. If anybody's being mean about my dead dad in the chat, fucking invite him. I'm here for it. Contrary to popular belief, I do have emotions. Nobody wants to talk to me, though. Let's see. Nope, nobody in the queue. Where are we? 10 minutes into the show. We got 200 people watching on TikTok, 50 people watching on YouTube. Yeah, maybe I'll be happy if it's a lower stream today, because people should be busy with family stuff. Too woke. No more MAGA left. I will. Okay, that's a topic that we can yap a little bit about during the dead air. Ain't nobody getting callers. Dean's having a hard time getting callers. Dean was ready to abort his stream an hour in. I don't usually have time to listen live to Dean these days. But I was listening yesterday, and he was having a hard time. I was listening to Santana and Diava before that, and neither of them could get a caller. And then what I was watching when somebody swatted him. Dean got swatted yesterday. That's lame. I do happen to know that for people as famous as him, swatting stops being that big a deal because the local sheriff knows who you are. So when the SWAT team is mobilized, there's a guy who's like, wait, everybody, just so you know, we're gonna knock on the door politely. I think I know who this is. So it's not that big a deal. Got Jesse. Is this friendly Jesse? There's a bunch of Jessies in the chat. There's a Jesse on the mod team, and there's a bunch of regular Jessies in the chat. So I don't know if this is a friendly or opposition. Hello, Jesse. How old are you?
Hey, how are you doing? I'm 21.
Doing all right. Are you a Trump supporter?
I am, yes. I had popped in the stream when you said you had lost your dad, and I am extremely sorry to hear that. Losing a parent is always rough, and I just wanted to come in here and say I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you. 1 point for MAGA today for not being mean about my dead dad, but I still do want to talk about Trump with you. I appreciate it. I really do.
Go for it, buddy.
Yeah, why do you support Trump?
I don't know. Really, I don't. I've been raised by diehard Republicans most of my fucking life.
That makes you a really, like, I'll be straightforward with you. Just based on your answer right there, this is already like a really high value call for me. I'm really interested in hearing some of your thoughts and perspectives, because I think a lot of people would jump down your throat pretty quickly for you saying that you don't even know why you support the guy, but you're young, right? How you said you're 21?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I think my question is just, do you agree with me that it's really important that you figure that out?
Yeah, I do. But with the recent election in 2020, I'd rather have.
Do you mean 2024?
Yes, sorry. Mm-hmm. I'm living in the past right now. I decided to vote for Trump over Kamala because I'd rather have someone that was president before and had experience with it. I also agree in stronger borders rather than what had happened.
Let's do one thing at a time. And I think it's worth considering that I don't actually believe, like, opinions about their policy aside, so let's not talk about the border, let's not talk about their character, let's not talk about any of all these other things that could really muddy the waters in a discussion about the two of them. I do think it is silly to suggest in 2024 that Kamala Harris was less qualified to be president than Donald Trump. Donald Trump had been president before, that's true, but even his own administration during the first term admitted that it was a big challenge for them getting him educated on how to execute the office of the president. The guy didn't know, the guy couldn't point to some important countries on the map. He didn't know who was leader of what country. There's a bunch of civics knowledge and global politics knowledge and history knowledge that's really important for the job. And he didn't have that stuff. So they had to work really hard against the fact that he really didn't know what he was talking about in a way that even today, I think he's kind of losing his mind a little bit. He's getting old, but he does more or less know what he's talking about today. He knows who the leader of what country is. He knows what his responsibilities are, because they've had 8 years to get him up to speed. But it was 8 years frantically getting somebody up to speed who'd made it to 70 years old without even bothering to learn that stuff. Whereas Kamala Harris had the sort of career that you want a president to have, where they started with low-level local politics or law enforcement. One, and for her, it was a combination, because she worked in not law enforcement, she worked in law, and then it became law enforcement because she was district attorney. And, she has time as a senator. She really climbed the ladder along the way, learning all the different functions of the government that it's important for the president to interact with and oversee. And in 2024, she had just been vice president for 4 years. So in addition to being in the White House and doing that work, she had done it recently. And we could have, if we're just going to look at practical qualifications, there could have been a little bit of continuance of governance where the previous vice president becomes the current president. And regardless of which party we're talking about, that is a thing that improves their performance because it's, they get to pick up right where they left off instead of having this big gap. Which is what we're going to see now if if she's involved in the next ticket or something like that. So I know I just said a lot, but I'm just going to ask again. Do you think it's reasonable to say that Trump was more qualified to be president this time around?
Yes, I do. This time around, I do.
Okay. In consideration of some of the, do you think that some of the stuff that I said is wrong, or do you think that there's some other information I'm leaving out that demonstrates that he'd be more qualified?
No, there's definitely some good points that you made. Both of them would have been qualified. 2016 first term, shit, I can't even remember how old I was. That's fucking disappointing. I don't think, no, I wasn't even old enough to vote for 2020, so 24 was actually my first election.
Right. That makes sense with you being 21. But I don't know. I feel like if you were taking what I was saying, like I'm okay with you not being convinced by it, but I'm trying to understand. If I listen to somebody give a big explanation like that, and I still think that they're wrong at the end, I'm usually sitting for the explanation thinking, they're failing to consider this thing. They're not saying this big thing that's so important to me that shows me that they're still wrong. Because I worry, especially because you admitted at the beginning of the call that you don't really know why you support him and you've just been raised in a household that really vehemently supports him. I just really want you to self-analyze whether or not you're coming to some kind of conclusion that he'd be more qualified, or if you just feel like that should be the right answer in spite of what I said. I want to know where it's coming from within you.
I do feel like he's a little bit more qualified, yeah.
But I'm trying to figure out if that's based in fact or if those are just feelings. Because you just said it that way. You agree that you feel like he's more qualified. What has shown you that he's more qualified?
The fact that we don't fuck around. We go by the rules of FAFO. Especially with Iran, foreign affairs and bullshit like that, saying death to America.
Hold on. We don't go by the rules of fuck around and find out in this country. We go by the Constitution.
That is true.
It's very true. No, it's not just like very true, but it's foundational. It's what the country's about. In fact, we started the country because we, the people, didn't like living in countries where the rule was fuck around and find out. That's what it's like living in a dictatorship. That's what it's like living in a monarchy. We don't want to have to worry about finding out how much the person in charge doesn't like our fucking around. We want to fuck around to our heart's content as allowed in the Constitution. That's what, from an American perspective, freedom is. So when you promote the idea that the platform should be fuck around and find out, it makes me worry that you don't value freedom in the way that I think a voting Americans should.
That is also true. However, if we look at multiple other democratic states infringing on gun rights, this is Second Amendment. The Bill of Rights, the right to bear arms shall not be infringed for well-regulated militia.
Okay, I believe in the Second Amendment. I think that...
I don't agree with, the round capacity restrictions. Sure,
I bet you and I would probably disagree about some of the ways that we think that firearms should be regulated, because I do think that they should be regulated. That said, even if we disagree about the Second Amendment, that's only one of the 10 amendments, and there's a lot of other rights that are laid out in the text of the Constitution itself, not just in the Bill of Rights. And I think that, again, if we're going to talk about facts versus feelings, I feel like what's going on here, and you can correct me if I'm wrong about this. I feel like you feel so strongly about the Second Amendment that it's blinding you to what's happening to the other amendments, because you can be upset that the president is doing what you consider to be an infringement of your Second Amendment by, promoting regulation of firearms. You have the right to be upset about that. You have the right to weigh that on your vote. That's reasonable. I can accept that even if I disagree with you. I consider that a normal disagreement. You're a little too young to know what I mean by that. That's the sort of thing Republicans and Democrats have been disagreeing about forever. But for most of history, we've agreed on certain things, like that the First Amendment is really important to protect. This president doesn't really believe in the First Amendment. He's doing some things that are really against free speech and are really concerning about making sure that people like you and me still get to talk openly about this stuff. And I just think that's more important than the Second Amendment.
I believe in freedom of speech and freedom of expression, but not freedom from consequences.
Sure. But the First Amendment protects you from consequences from the government, not from individuals, which is why you can say fuck around and find out. Like if you say something stupid on Oscar's show, the internet might get awfully mad at you. That's a consequence. That's fine. That's all free speech. But for the president to do things like, here's an example, he has appointed people that are loyal to him to certain positions. I don't know if you're aware of this, but one of the people that the president appoints is chair of the FCC. And the person who is chair of the FCC is in charge of oversight around things like broadcasting. So when you hear that Trump is warring with people like Jimmy Kimmel, what's actually going on is he doesn't like what Jimmy Kimmel is doing. Jimmy Kimmel is exercising his First Amendment right. And he, as president, is leveraging his authority as president because he has control over who's in charge of the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission. Because he's instructing that person to pull the broadcast licenses of the networks that platform people like Jimmy Kimmel. That'd be a little bit like if the president didn't like what I was saying. So because he has a hand in TikTok, because he's also in cahoots with the owner of TikTok, by the way. If he said, hey, can we just delete that guy? Can we ban Oscar from going live? Do you think it would be good for the president to ban me from going live because he didn't like the way I talked about him?
No.
Do you think that'd be a violation of the First Amendment?
Yeah, it would be. However, man, I don't like Jimmy Kimmel with the way he talks about everyone else. He's just full of hate.
That's fine. You can say all the mean stuff that you want about Jimmy Kimmel. That's great. If he gets deplatformed because people don't like his show, that's fine. If he gets fired because the network doesn't like him, that's fine. The issue I take is the president, who's no longer a civilian. This is a member of the government, a very important member of the government, executing authority over who gets to say what, which is specifically what the First Amendment says is not okay. It's okay for people to get canceled. It's okay for people to have consequences for the things they say. It simply isn't okay for those consequences to come from the government. That's what the First Amendment is about.
Yeah.
I think that's a big deal. I think that Trump is going after your First Amendment more than Kamala Harris would have gone after your Second. And everybody exercises their First Amendment every day. Not everybody chooses to own a firearm. We can say they're both important rights, but the fact of the matter is the First Amendment is a little more relevant all the time to everybody. You and I are both doing a thing that we're allowed to do because of the First Amendment right now.
Right. Well, either way.
We're only talking about the First Amendment, but I have some concerns about other amendments. I could talk about the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, the 10th Amendment, the 14th Amendment. I don't know how constitutionally educated you are, but that's the list of amendments that I feel are under very specific attack from this administration. And if we look at those amendment rights, the First, Fourth, Fifth, 10th, and 14th, and I, as a neighbor of Alex Preddy's, I like to throw the Second in there because I do believe that Alex Preddy was unalived by the government for carrying a firearm, which I think is a violation of his Second Amendment right. If we're gonna look at that list of amendments, you can ask the question outside of the context of a Trump administration. Let's rewind 15 years and said, how would you feel about a president who's actively working against people's First, Second, Fourth, Fifth, 10th, and 14th Amendment rights? I think anybody well studied on how the country works would listen to that and go, that sounds like a guy who wants to be a tyrant. That sounds like a guy who doesn't like the ways in which the Constitution restricts the powers of the president. 10th Amendment, that's states' rights. That's that the federal government, he left. Well, what do you guys think? Do you think I got through to him at all? What do you think, Scout? I think he ran. I think I was making a little too much sense, and I hope he calls back in after thinking about it more. Thank you for the mic drop over on YouTube. Thank you for the gift. I definitely appreciate it. If you think what I'm doing here is good, you can go to the link tree in my bio and follow me on the other platforms. I think 10 days in a row now I've forgotten to get my backup accounts in the box in the corner, but Mods, somebody remind me at 9:30 in the morning so I can... I need to like stick a post-it somewhere. But yeah, Oskar Quentin 2 and Oskar Quentin Music need some followers on TikTok because those are the backup accounts for when this one gets banned, which is, probably going to happen eventually. Scout, are you my next caller, Scout? You are not allowed to walk on the keyboard, silly. W's in the chat for Scout for constantly interrupting the show. We're going to talk to Courtney L.U., or is it I.U.? I can't see. We're going to talk to Courtney Lou. We're going to see how old Courtney is and if she's a Trump supporter. Hello.
Hi, definitely not a Trump supporter.
Okay, got 10 seconds before I kick you. Say your piece.
I didn't mean to join. I was trying to join.
Oh, no worries. No worries. That one was just an accident. We're going to talk to Kenneth W. Is Kenneth going to get a W? I hope so. I like it when the caller gets a W. Hello, how old are you?
53 from Ohio, and I'm one of the founding members of Blaga, and I've been down with Trump since like 2015.
Okay, so you're Blaga? Are you saying you're a black Trump supporter? Is that what that means?
Well, you know what it means, right?
First time I've heard the term, and I just want to be careful and make sure I get it right.
You've never heard the term Blaga before?
Nope.
How long you been on YouTube? I mean, TikTok?
Since February.
No, not long. You're but a virgin on TikTok, I guess. Okay, well, you need to read up a little bit,
Okay. Why do you support Trump?
Oh, you know what I'm really impressed about? He stood in front of that group of black men and said, I'm going to stop these immigrants from taking your jobs, get them out your community. And that kind of solidified everything for me. But when I first initially got with Trump, because he promised to drain the swamp, he was different from Bush and the Clintons, those dynasties that ruined our country. And he was a breath of fresh.
The dynasty.
Let me finish, right? The dynasties that ruined our country, the Bushes back and forth, they had Jeb Bush threatening, and then the Clintons who have destroyed our country, all up in the E-files. And Trump promised to eliminate those dynasties from ruining our country. And then that's what made me initially go with him.
Okay, I have some things that, given what you just said about the Clintons and the Bushes and just generally, there's some things that Trump's done that I think that you probably would take issue with. So I just want to get your opinion on some of them. Can we do that?
Oh, of course.
He currently has an arrangement where he and his family members cannot be audited by the IRS ever again, especially his family members. If you use that word dynasty, political power being inherited by family members is really what that means to me. How do you feel about the fact that Trump has exempted his family from IRS investigation?
Well, the way the IRS was used to, go after him, I think it's okay.
But we're talking about his family members who are not him, and we're talking about things that they might do in the future after he's dead.
It's not just Trump that they went after; it was after his family and everything. So if they weaponize it, then we need to stop them from doing that. So I think it's appropriate.
So, but you think it's now appropriate for the Trump dynasty to wield the power to cheat their taxes and never be investigated for it?
Yeah, because I know when Biden protected his dynasty, his legacy, by giving him pardon. I don't hear you.
He did protectively pardon some family members. That did happen. I'm agreeing with you. Look at that. Wow, we agree that a thing happened. Can you stop interrupting me so I can respond to what you just said?
Yeah, I'm glad we agree on that. That's all.
Wonderful. How do you feel about the 1,000 people that Donald Trump pardoned who attempted to overthrow the government by invading the Capitol and preventing the certification of the United States presidential election on January 6th, 2021?
Oh, I agree with that. Anytime I happen to be black, so anytime we protect the right to redress our grievances, I went to Million Man March, so I know how important it is for citizens to say, "Hey, government, you're doing us wrong." So I respect the new Boston Tea Party. That's what I call January 6th protesters.
You think it's appropriate for people?
Yeah, I think it's probably protest. Yeah, protest. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm black. You remember I'm black. No, don't forget that.
I don't judge people based on their skin color.
No, I'm saying we've been protesting forever. So you can't ask me.
Actually, I suppose the only way that I do judge people on their skin color is that I think it's because people who have your skin color are in so much danger because of this administration. I'll get to that.
Because of your people.
I was in the middle of a sentence.
We're in danger because of you people. Your skin color.
What am I? Yeah, I agree that white people are generally...
Just say me. Just say me. You're in danger because of me and my people. Say that.
So my next question is, how do you feel about Kavanaugh stops? The Supreme Court has ruled that ICE is allowed to detain people using just their skin color as probable cause. Do you think
that's how you determine who they are? You can't. How else are you going to know?
So you're okay with being detained by ICE because of your skin color?
Yeah, I think if you fit the profile, we need to search for a particular profile. Yeah, we could do that.
Okay.
I mean, how is he going to get them out?
Okay, so you got.
No, I'm asking. I'm logically.
No, I'm gonna keep with the spitball game that we're playing. The next question I have is how you feel about the way that Trump spent the week prior to November 19th, when the Epstein Files Transparency Act was passed. You mentioned earlier in the call that you really wanted these Epstein criminals to be caught, and you wanted Trump to go after them. So how do you feel about the fact that he? What did you say about the Epstein files? You brought it up when you were talking about the Clintons.
I said Bill Clinton is all involved in it. That's all I said.
Right. And you want Trump to catch him for that. Is that correct?
No, he's already caught.
Bill Clinton is a free man.
I mean, but they're not going to, your higher ups are not going to go to jail.
Okay, I'm going to ask my question.
They're a dynasty. They're a deep
I am going to ask my question. My question is, during the week prior to the passing of the Epstein Files Transparency Act, I'll actually ask this first question. Do you think that passing the Epstein Files Transparency Act was a good thing to do?
Well, yeah, he made a promise during the campaign, so yeah.
Okay, so then I want you to explain to me why he spent the week prior to that law passing urging people not to vote for it and meeting with 3 of the Republicans who had flipped to vote for it, Thomas Massie, Lauren Boebert, and Marjorie Taylor Greene, urging them to vote against it. And when they all refused, last minute, the night before the vote, he finally announced that he was going to flip and have everybody vote for it. I think he did that to save face because it was going to pass with a veto-proof majority anyway. Why did he do that? Why did he try to stop that law from being passed?
Because he believes it's a hoax, and then what we know is about Netanyahu and the people.
Just a moment ago, you said it was good for. No, because you're saying some bullshit, and I want to address it.
Okay.
Yeah. You said just a second ago. I made sure to ask beforehand that you agree that it was a campaign promise of Trump's. You actually brought that up. I said, "Do you agree with the law?" You said, "Yes, it was a campaign promise of his." So he's doing something that was consistent with his campaign promises. So the question is, why did he work so hard to make that not happen?
Because after he got in office, he realized it was a hoax. And people like Netanyahu are planning to drop more files.
So I'll ask again. Was it good or bad that the law passed?
I think it was a smoke screen. Is money
good or bad? Should the law have been passed?
I mean, I don't know the details. I know it was good that he passed it so he can get it off his chest.
Okay,
but I think that
why did he? Because whether you tell me that it was good or bad to pass the law, I can give you Trump saying the opposite because he spent a week trying to prevent it from being passed, and then he announced that it should be passed.
I know you're getting frustrated. I know you're getting frustrated, but
I'm not that frustrated. I deal with people as inconsistent as yourself every day.
You don't get. You're getting heated. Get your cat. Rub your cat again.
I think you're projecting. I think I'm cool as a cucumber, and you don't like my line of questioning.
No, get your cat because you're getting elevated.
I don't.
He will calm you down. Your feline will calm you down. Because I know you don't have a woman.
How do you feel about the Epstein Files Transparency Act?
I feel fine about it.
How do you feel about the fact that law is not being followed by Trump's DOJ?
I know white men are pedos, and he's trying to cover up
personal attacks, pivots. I'm going to move on.
Okay.
I detected right away this is probably not going to be a very serious conversation. I don't think that
you're not winning.
Chat can decide. Thanks, Jazz, for the $5 on YouTube Super Chat, who pointed out Biden pardoned people preemptively because Trump was promising to prosecute them under false pretenses. Trump literally called Fauci a murderer. Yeah.
Well, I think we just got the documents about that, right? Didn't Tulsi just release some shit about Fauci?
I'm not interested in letting you out of the corner about the Epstein files.
Why didn't you bring that up? That you were masked up for a lie, and you triple boosted.
What are you talking about?
You're triple boosted because of Fauci lie. Why don't you bring that up?
Oh, you're going to spread COVID misinformation. You're going to get a misinformation.
I'm telling you what Tulsi Gabbard released, sir. Or aren't you aware, sir?
I'm not familiar with what you're talking about. Somebody in the
read up.
Somebody in the chat says,
don't come in here unprepared.
Well, it sounds like you have something to tell me. What did Tulsi Gabbard release?
No, I mean, I'm not going to educate you. If you need my education, you got to pay me. But what I'm telling you is that Tulsi Gabbard released the fraud that Fauci was, and you didn't even read up on it. You're talking about some stuff that really doesn't affect everybody. But when we were masked up, segregated, isolated, 6 feet apart, it was all a lie.
I just want to make sure that you're a person who has a good grasp of epidemiology, because you're talking about a person who does have a good grasp of epidemiology, and you would disagree with them. So just really quick, in the context of epidemiology, what is an R value?
An R value?
Yeah, what is an R value? It's like the most important number in all of epidemiology.
I'm not an epidemiologist, though.
I'm aware of that fact.
I'm a political scientist.
Yeah, actually,
So
if you're a political scientist who values how we did policy around COVID, you should also know what an R value is.
I value what I value is her releasing the information that Fauci lied to everyone. That's what I value. The political ramifications.
I don't think you're qualified to call anything that he said a lie unless you know what an R value is.
Why does that have to do with anything? When Fauci lied, did he lie about R values? Did Fauci lie about R values?
You're suggesting that he did, yeah.
Yes, he did. He lied about R values, or did he lie about
you don't know what an R value is,
or did he lie about what he did to perpetuate that illness in the lab?
You don't know what an R value is. Why are you speaking authoritatively about what Fauci said about them?
Tell me what an R value is.
An R value is a
So what? I don't care. How about that?
Yeah, I know you don't care because you don't actually care about what's true and how epidemiology works. You just want Fauci to be wrong. R value is a number that pertains to how likely a person who has a disease is to spread it to somebody else. So
I'm herd immunity. I got herd immunity.
Okay, herd immunity is achieved by lowering the R value to a certain point.
I got it though.
No one person has an R value.
I got the herd.
You're demonstrating that you have no idea what you're talking about. You realize that, right?
I'm just letting you know what Fauci said when.
But you don't understand what you're talking about. He said things about epidemiology and COVID, and you don't understand the basics.
What I do know, he's lied about the origins of the virus. He lied about the measures that were taken. He covers shit up, and you're not talking about it. That's what I care about. While you're double vaxxed and triple boosted, masked up and 6 feet apart.
Are you aware of the clinical trials process that vaccines go through?
I know he lied. Are you aware of his lies?
But you just keep saying that he lied, but you don't excuse me, sir. You don't seem to know even the basic vocabulary words necessary to have a conversation about
because I don't know our values.
Yeah. So you're accusing Fauci of lying, and you're not even qualified to understand what he's saying.
A lot of people said he lied.
Because you're not qualified to understand the words that Fauci uses.
Who
told you that he lied?
Head of national security.
Kick or keep, chat. I'm not really in the mood for somebody who's not even willing to recognize that they don't have the basic vocabulary necessary to have the conversation.
You fucking nerd.
Yeah, personal attacks, dude. I don't fucking care.
I mean, you're a geek. Yep. You don't want to talk to somebody that's cool.
Geek's a compliment in my sphere, buddy.
I will put you in a toilet and flush you and put you in a locker. That's what I used to do to nerds like
You're going to bully me like I'm in middle school?
I mean, like you having PTSD because you bullied before? I'm bullying you in the chat to make you feel like you're back in the locker.
Okay, man. Are you proud of that?
You're such a geek.
Lots of kicks in the chat, man.
I mean, I'll leave. I've done my job. I put you in the locker, flush your head in the toilet, and gave you a swirly, showing you that you're a punk right now. You get on your microphone.
I'm a musician. Punk is also a compliment in my
you come up. I listen to hardcore hip hop. I'm rap. I don't care about your punk music.
Well, what I care about is you coming up.
What I care about is you coming up here, spreading your lies and white splaining everybody. Talk about our values. Think you're smarter than everybody. When you're a coward. I was
just checking if you knew what you were talking about. Seems you don't.
You're a coward.
What's
you're a liberal coward. You're a pinko coward.
One more thing before I kick you. If I'm the coward and you're not, show us your face.
Well, okay.
Put your camera on. Yep. Sure. Put the camera up. Let's do it. All right, so I just want you to say a couple more things about my character.
I'd rather not.
No, I want you to do it on camera.
No, you look like police now.
See, now you don't want to do it because you are a coward. You're not convicted in your beliefs.
I think you're police.
You don't want there to exist evidence matching your political beliefs and your demeanor and attitude to your face.
I think you're police.
That makes you a coward.
I think you're a snitch.
We're live in front of everybody. The police could be watching. This is a public show.
You're police.
Once again,
snitches, bro.
Camera on, or we're not going to continue the conversation.
No, I don't care.
I already had the chat tell me that they want you kicked, so you're on real thin ice. But I'm in charge here. Camera on.
Famous.
Camera on. Camera on.
I'll go to another live and get brought up immediately.
You'll get to another live and run into somebody less qualified than me and feel good about bullying them, and that's reprehensible.
I think you don't know anything. You don't know anything.
I know what an R value is.
You don't know what Tulsi Gabbard released.
All right, we're going to kick Kenneth unless he wants to put his camera on. Last chance?
No, you're good. Kick me.
Goodbye. Oh, man. I'm not having PTSD. He's got me reminiscing about middle school. Because in spite of all the bullying, middle school was kind of a good time. I did get bullied in middle school, though. It's more popular in high school. Anyway, if you like the show, if you like watching me get bullied by grown man children who are too afraid to show their face and match their face to their beliefs, you can follow me on all the other platforms by going to the link tree in my bio and follow me the different places. The show is uploaded every day after the fact on YouTube, so you can listen to me as a podcast when I'm not live. And if you want me to be able to pay my bills, you can send money to my Venmo, Cash App, Buy Me a Coffee, or Patreon. Dizzy just sent me $5 on YouTube Super Chat to say nothing at all. They just wanted to send me $5. How nice. Jazz says Oscar once again looks maxing over the guest. Goddamn. Yeah, my looks maxing score, it's okay. It's okay. I'm in pretty good physical shape for a man of my age. I got pretty good skin. Teeth. We're link tree in the bio. Teeth fun. Get Oscar some new twofers. But yeah, I do think he was maybe a little bit busted. I was surprised he did it. But it was fun that he didn't want to put on his he didn't want to say anything with his camera on. There it was. There was the line for him. If you're into all that type of shit, you can support the show through the link tree in the bio. And just by engaging, have a conversation in the chat, double tap the screen if you're watching on TikTok. That gets more people watching. We got 400 people watching, which is a super healthy stream. So hopefully, what do we got on YouTube? 100 over there. So we got 500 people watching. Let's see if 500 people enjoy our conversation with Clay Street or Clay ST. I assume that means Clay Street. I don't know. We're going to talk to Clay and we're going to see if he wants to put my head in a toilet. I would argue that was a threat. It was kind of a silly threat, but he did threaten to assault me. He did say that he was going to assault me, and then he did show his face. So I don't know. Guy's worried about the police. The guy's worried about me being Clay left. By the way, the guy's worried about me being the police when he's broadcasting to the public. Look, what kind of sense does that make? At least my cat is okay. We did have somebody threaten the animals yesterday, which was not cool. But yeah, I mean, I know they weren't too seriously. Thank you so much for the gifts, everybody. Who sent that paper crane? I saw a paper crane come in, but I was distracted. Oh, where did it go? There it was. Angela, thank you very much. Thank you, Katie, for the gifts over on YouTube. Yeah, Scott is calling me a sissy. Why? Where's Scott? Invite Scott. We shall discuss whether or not I am a sissy. Am I allowed to say sissy on TikTok?
What's up, you little fucker?
Yeah, dude, are you going to behave yourself or are you going to get auto-removed for harassment and bullying? You can be mean to me, you just got to be creative.
I'm telling you, you're a little fucker.
Okay, what does that mean?
You know what? We're in the same city. You know that, right?
Yeah, I remember you. I know who you are.
Yeah, we're going to bump into each other one day. I'm going to enjoy it.
What's going to happen?
I said I'm going to enjoy it.
Why will you enjoy it?
And that's about all I got to say to you, Oscar.
Are you going to show your face, Scott, or are you also going to be a coward? No, Scott's a coward, too. Goodbye, Scott. Man, Dean was also getting threats on the air yesterday. I think MAGA's getting frustrated. They're really running out of arguments. Haven't been able to get any of them to have anything reasonable to say about Iran lately, because Trump is looking bad in that domain. So yeah, they're just running out of. They're just what do we have? We had one reasonably good faith call at the beginning where a young man, I think, ran because I was making some sense and I was really challenging the fact that he didn't even know why he supported Trump. He just supported him because his family supports him. And then two callers who threatened my safety. But I'm the coward, even though I am so excited to get up and do this every single day, 10 to 12 Central Time. Carry a weapon, please. I have literally been considering making a GoFundMe to buy Oscar a gun because I think it'd be very funny. Two, I just I can't really afford a firearm. I've got a bunch of things I need to upgrade for the show, but I think probably put a gun on the list. Dean Withers bought a gun after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, and I don't blame him. He gets a lot of flack for, I don't know if he actually, what the soundbite was, if he referred to Charlie Kirk as a colleague, but I'm a little bit in the sphere. I'm a little, I sit here and deal with threats, and I in Dean's defense, you don't have to like Charlie Kirk to see him get assassinated and think, somebody who does the sort of thing that I do got unalived, got assassinated. Like that, I think that it's worth pointing out that it does put all of us in danger, regardless of which side we're on, if there's political violence against commentators. And I think that as somebody who is now involved enough in this that a lot of stuff can feel very close to home. People who watch me regularly know that I was really concerned about getting swept up in the arrests this past week in Minneapolis, even though I don't really participate in the sort of stuff they were arresting people for. I just, it's just, we're all a little paranoid. Like, there's something about it hitting close to home when you're as connected to it as some of us are. And that doesn't have to do with which side of it you're on. It is just a little scary. So will Oskar buy a gun? Perhaps. Linktree in the bio. We got people like Jaden Scott coming to people's homes and harassing them. Anyway, we're gonna talk to JarrodK. We'll see if JarrodK wants to threaten my safety. Score is 2 for 3 so far on today's episode. How old are you, Jared?
28.
Do you support Trump?
Yes, I do.
Why is that?
Well, many reasons, but I think my biggest reason of supporting him was immigration, southern border policies.
What is his southern border policy?
Well, there's many. I mean, declaring a national emergency, self-deportations, declaring cartels terrorists, the big beautiful bill with the funding, ending catch and release.
You actually had some answers there. Are you connected to a Bluetooth device? I'm getting a bit of an echo.
I am not, but I think it's my case. Hold on.
Oh, you're driving, aren't you? Are you in a car?
No, I can turn my camera on and show you I'm inside a house, but it's my phone case that's like... Is it echoey or is it just quiet here? I'm inside. I'm not.
I believe. Yeah, I see the camera. I believe that you're inside. It's just that there's an echo of me coming back, and it kind of it's doing a little speech jamming for me. It's hard to talk over myself. Can you take the case off? I do want the call to continue. The guy actually had answers to the question about Trump's border policy. This is one of those educated callers who's going to know some of the things, which is sometimes more productive. You know, it's better than talking to somebody who doesn't even know what they're like, what the actual policies are. I don't know. He's teacupped. I might ask him to get it sorted and come back later. I'm gonna kick him because he's not getting in order fast enough.
What about now?
Oh, I think that's better. Echo? Yeah, I think we're good. Okay, yeah, we'll continue. Why do you think immigration is such a big problem?
I don't think legal immigration is the problem. I think illegal immigration is a really big problem for not just the immigrants, but for like U.S. citizens.
Yeah. So why do you think it's
well?
Not
only because they risk their life, you know, being smuggled across, paying cartels, paying coyotes. A lot of people get raped unalive. Children are being smuggled. And then when they make it here, they pay taxes, get no benefits, can't vote.
Hold on. You said a lot there, but I'm going to pick out one thing. You said that children are being smuggled. Do you think that if a family illegally immigrates, it would be fair to say that a child in that family is being smuggled? Is that what you're talking about?
If a child immigrates illegally with their family?
Yeah.
Yeah, usually, I mean,
yes
regardless,
or no? Is that a child being smuggled?
Yeah, because they have to pay a coyote to smuggle them across the border. Usually they're in the back of a semi truck.
But you do realize that you do a tremendous disservice to people who are victims of child trafficking if you refer to it that way, because it's not the same thing as a child perhaps being kidnapped and sent to be a sex worker.
Of course not. Both are forms of human smuggling, right? One is a form of sex trafficking, but both go hand in hand with those people.
They don't go hand in hand. They do not go hand in hand. These are children who get to stay with their families. They are children who are in our legal system are entitled to go to school because we do offer education to the children of illegal immigrants, whether or not those children are citizens. That's one of the ways in which point in your favor. That is one of the ways in which they cost our system money. There are very few ways in which they cost our system money, but that is one of them. So I think it is absolutely reprehensible and disingenuous for you to suggest that it's fair to call those children trafficked or smuggled, as you said, when they are people who get to stay with their family.
So, Oskar, according to the United Nations Office of Drugs and Crime, 75 to 95% of minors at the border are being smuggled through criminal organizations.
Right, because you can put that label on it because of the illegal immigration. But no, are you suggesting that...
Right, because you're shoving a child in the back of a semi-truck, in the back of a pickup truck, hiding them, and then driving them across the border in terrible conditions with no water across the desert. That's human smuggling.
Yeah, it's
terrible.
Yeah, and it's a hard thing for parents to do, to have to make a decision to go through something like that, to escape the sort of economic conditions or safety issues, whatever it is they're running from in the country that they're fleeing from, to come illegally immigrate into the United States. It has to be so bad that as parents they made a decision to go through something terrible like that. And I really feel for those people because I'm a fucking human being. And I think that you use that as
maybe have a better option?
I think that I feel for those people because I'm a humanist. I think that you see that as an opportunity to... No, I don't. I think that you're an opportunist who sees that and thinks I can leverage the safety of these children for my argument. I'm going to say that they're being smuggled. I'm going to use language that alludes to trafficking. When the host tells me that I'm tangling it up with sex trafficking in a way that's disingenuous and does a disservice to people who are trafficked in more serious ways, you're going to defend it and say that the two go hand in hand. And you're too intelligent. You've demonstrated to me that you can read.
Organizations say 70 to 95% of children are being sexually trapped.
I do not believe you think that. You're suggesting. Are you saying that 75 to 90% of the children who cross the border illegally are being sex trafficked? Is that your claim?
Yeah, according to the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime.
I need need exactly the article.
I just gave you the source, according to ICE as well.
Okay, so
and it's crazy. Hold on, so let me answer,
Google
Oscar,
open. We're going to look at the source. Yeah. I've got Google open.
So, Oscar, you're talking to an immigrant who knows people who have been smuggled and trafficked and have
that source again. We are going to look at it together.
And the fact that you're trying to fucking make it seem like it's okay to smuggle children. I just gave you the source.
Yeah, what is it? Say it again. Yeah, what is it? UN what?
The United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. ICE also has something on this. DHS initiative uncovers widespread abuse. I have
typed in minors. See, I think you know you're being difficult about me getting this up on the screen. I've typed in United Nations Office of Drugs and Crime. What do I type after to find this evidence?
Just Google what % of children crossing illegally are being
hold on,
trafficked.
Stop. I started the search by saying United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. Am I throwing that away and now just Googling the question?
No, that would get you to it faster.
Okay, so
because you're purposely being difficult because you don't like sources.
I'm just trying to Google what you want me to Google.
You just try to excuse children being smuggled across the border.
You're using those children, which is reprehensible for the reasons I described.
Actually, you are, because you guys pretend to have the moral high ground when you guys don't care about unaccompanied minors. Joe Biden removed DNA testing for minors.
We're still checking your source. What do I search? Am I deleting this or typing something in addition to it?
I don't know. It's up to you. I don't know if you know how to do basic research.
It's your source.
Do you know how to do basic research? I just told you the source.
And then you told me to get rid of the source and type a question into Google. Which is it? What am I doing?
Whichever one you want.
Whichever one you want, it's your source. You said that
there's also NIH.
Nope. United Nations Office of Drugs and Crime. What do I add to this search to find the particular source from them? Because I'm not just going to go to their website. It's not going to say on the homepage of their website that you're
exactly.
Right.
So I don't know why you're typing that in. That's what I'm saying. I don't know if you know how to do basic research. I give you the source, and that's what you typed into Google. You're not very good at doing research. Though.
I asked you what I should hear. Let's start over. Clean slate. Let's pretend that I got the L on that. L host. Let's start over. What's your source? What do I type into Google to find it?
I already gave you it. What more do you want me to tell you? I gave you three sources now.
I want us to start over. And
I gave you DHS.
Nope.
NIH,
United Nations, dude.
And the United Nations.
Come on, this is horseshit.
Drug office.
It's transparent. Everybody watching knows that
you're being disingenuous. You're saying these children that are being smuggled across the border.
I'm begging you to tell me what to Google to find your source. What are the words? What do I search? Fill the chat with L host so he feels better and fucking tell me what I search. Come on.
Sure. Put in Google what percentage of children crossing illegally are being sex trafficked or trafficked, whatever word you want to put on there, smuggled.
It's not whatever word I want. Yeah. It's whatever I'm asking for your source. You said 75 to 90% of the children that cross the border are being sex trafficked. That is a very specific claim. We're trying to find the source on that. Is this what you want me to search?
Sure. Well, be clear. Is there a difference between human trafficking and sex trafficking?
Yes or no? Do I hit enter? Is it time to hit search?
Yes, answer that. Yeah, hit enter and then answer the question.
Okay.
What's the difference between human trafficking and sex trafficking?
75 to 90% crossing the border, sex trafficking. That's what we're on. We're not going to move on. Which of these things do you want me to click?
Can you answer the question? What's the difference between human trafficking and sex trafficking?
No, we're looking at your source.
So you don't know the difference?
I do know the difference. I'm refusing to move on. I do it on my show all the time. Your source, which do I click?
Whichever one. The NIH is the first one. You want to click that one?
I'm sorry. I thought the source was going to come from the United Nations.
Why are you crashing out? Why are you crashing out?
United Nations. You said it was the United Nations.
Why are you
want me to
crashing
add?
out?
Because you're dodging finding your own source. I'm sitting here patiently trying to get you to tell me what to look at. We can look at this National Institute of Health resource. I was just pointing out that it is not what you told me to search in the first place.
Here.
You told me that your source on that particular statistic, 75 to 90% of children crossing the border.
I'll pull it up for you. I'll pull it up for you.
I'm not doing that. I'm not having your blurry. Okay, what you're that little teeny thing that you're looking at here. I'll put it up for just a second. Cool. Sure. 60%. How do I find
Latin American children who set out across the border alone with smugglers have been caught by the cartel as being abused and child?
Okay, so how do I get that on my screen so people can actually see it? What do I search? Sure, are we starting over?
I can give you everything you want, but you're not fucking doing any good research. I'm sorry.
We're gonna try again. What do I search to get that?
Here's this.
How
porous borders fuel human trafficking in the United States.
Oh God, I can't spell today. There we go.
Not surprised.
Yeah, fun. Get your digs in. Okay, so we have Congress.gov, and I thought that the source was going to be the United Nations.
We had the NIH pulled up, and you didn't want that.
I actually did pull that up. It wants me to. I said that we can look at that, but again, why? Like, where did the United Nations go? I don't trust Congress.gov, regardless of which side of the aisle is talking about it. Congress.gov isn't a primary source on anything. The United Nations might be, NIH might be, but Congress.gov isn't. Lots of nonsense on Congress.gov. Is that where are you moving the goalpost on your own source to say that it's Congress.gov? Is that what's happening now? I don't know why you're muted.
Oh, my bad. I thought I was not muted. I got the United Nations source pulled up since you want that one really
Jesus
bad.
Fucking Christ. What did it take us? 5 minutes? What do I search to find it?
Well, for me to do the research for you?
United Nations.
UNODC, United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime.
DC,
Report on human trafficking exposes modern form of slavery. And this is where that number comes out. It says, as of the most common form of trafficking, 79% is...
Slow down.
Oh.
Is it this first link that I should be clicking? Global Report on Trafficking in Persons.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to ask a very quick question. Is the data that you're showing me international data, or does it have to do with illegal immigration in America? Because I would not actually be surprised if the number 70 to 90% or whatever you said was accurate globally, but we are talking about illegal immigration in America.
Oh, so you're moving the goalpost. So
no,
you think it's not international? Human trafficking is international.
When we said
it's not just America.
The specific claim was that 75 to 90% of children who cross the border, and I think it is fair to say from context that we were talking about the American border on this show about American politics, where we talk about the American president and how much you love his policies on solving illegal immigration in America. And I said, you asserted that 75 to 90% of the children that cross the border, that border that we've been talking about the whole show, the border that I talk about on this show every fucking day, that border is 75 to 90%. Are you now walking back and saying that is not true, and you're going to show me data that says that child sex trafficking is a big problem globally, which it obviously fucking is?
Actually, now you're walking back saying, well, yeah, you're right. It is internationally majority sexual exploitation.
We don't even need to look at the source.
But not at the southern border, right? But not at the southern border, right?
Everybody.
It is internationally, but not locally.
Everybody.
There's
watching,
not a human sex trafficking issue locally.
Shut up for a second and listen.
Wow,
chat, everybody.
You will twist it into a pretzel.
Chat.
You just twisted.
Dude, shut up. I'm talking to the chat. I don't use the mute button on my show, so I'm going to ask a question to the chat. Chat, was it clear, yes or no, that we were talking about the American border? Just give me a yes or no on that, because I don't even care about looking at this source, because I'll just concede
there's no such thing as an American border. It's the Mexican-American border. You don't want to admit it's international. You're like, it's the American border. It's the Mexican-American border, which makes it international, you goofball.
Yeah,
you just got fucking proven wrong.
No, but data
now you're
about
twisting
all the
into
borders.
A pretzel.
What
you just realized that I was right.
What percentage of the global migration
is sexual exploitation?
And what percentage of that is represented by the American border, whether it be with Canada or Mexico or whatever? What percentage of the border migration that happens between countries on the planet are illegal immigrants in America responsible for? Because what I'm specifically asking then is, if we're going to look at this statistic about 75 to 90% of child border crossings being sex trafficking, if we're going to look at that, we have to consider what percentage of that data set is represented by the people that we were actually talking about in the first place, which is illegal immigrants in America. And I think it's such a small percentage that it's silly to try to use that global data to represent what's going on locally.
Do you know?
I don't know. We could maybe Google it.
So how can you know it's small?
Because it's obvious to me that the number of people who cross borders on the planet is enormous compared to the number of people who cross the borders into the United States. Are you actually suggesting that I'm wrong and that a big percentage of the global migration that happens is just to the United States and everybody else is saying put? It's fucking nonsense, dudes. I have found the way in which you found technically true information and misrepresented it to support your side of this argument. And you are grasping at straws, trying to say that I'm the one moving the goalpost and I'm the one trying to get out of this. And that's fucking nonsense. I'm trying to address it with you specifically.
According to the International Affairs Review, they estimate that about 50% of the trafficking happens at the U.S.-Mexico border, and they call it a major vector for human smuggling and trafficking in the United States. For all the victims from Central America, South America, and Mexico.
You just brought up different and true information, which is that I bet...
Because you said it was a small percentage. Is 50% small?
Excuse me. Is it 50% of the global trafficking or 50% of the trafficking in the United States?
50%.
Of the global trafficking or of the trafficking in the United States? Because that number sounds right for the trafficking in the United States, but not for the global trafficking.
Of global trafficking happens at the southern border.
Source. That one I'll look at. What do I Google to find it?
You're just going to crash out again. I just told you what the source was. The International Affairs Review.
International Affairs Review. What do I
Notice how it's international because it's a Mexico-U.S. border?
Okay. I don't care. I want to see if what you just said is true. That 50. Okay. We have a new claim. We're throwing away the 75 to 90% thing about children.
Yeah, because we proved that was right. 50% of human trafficking is sex.
I don't care. New claim. You have a new claim.
80%
No,
of human trafficking is sexual exploitation,
that to be wrong. I demonstrated that to be wrong. You have a new claim, which
Actually,
is that.
we just proved it was right.
I'm going to pin you down. I am going to pin you down to one thing. You have a new claim, which is that 50% of the sex trafficking that happens on the planet.
You want to move the goalpost because you realize I was right about the last claim.
You have a new claim, which is that 50% of the trafficking that happens on the planet happens at the U.S.-Mexico border. I'm trying to find your source for that claim. I've typed in International Affairs Review. What do I type additionally to make sure that
before
the correct thing comes up first?
Can you admit that 80% of human smuggling is sexual exploitation and sexual trafficking?
No, I'm just going to insist that you answer my question, which is how do I finish? Yeah, I'm not going to engage.
Care about human smuggling
you're
or human
gish galloping.
trafficking.
You are moving on to new claims before we assess this current one.
Performative white
you are the ones
liberals do.
Yep, attacking my personality. You're flailing. You're the one crashing out. You're doing all the things that people do.
You don't care about human smuggling.
You said
you don't care about human trafficking, sexual exploitation.
All right, I'm probably going to move on. Kicker keep in the chat. We can look at your source if you want to defend the claim that 50% of the global sex trafficking happens at the U.S.-Mexico border. The claim you made specifically is that 50% of the sex trafficking that happens on planet Earth happens at the U.S.-Mexico border. I'm trying to get you to defend that. You told me to type in International Affairs Review. I'm asking what the rest of the search term is to search it and find if that is true.
You're just moving the goalpost because I already proved that the majority of human trafficking is sexual exploitation.
That's false. You're leveraging the fact that there are people who have joined the call since we assessed that you were wrong about that because you were looking at international data instead of local data. You're now asserting that the local data represents a huge amount of
the U.S. border is international. It's Mexico and U.S. That's an international border.
It's not genuine.
Is that an international border? Yes or no?
I'll give you one more chance. Do you want me to search for your claim, or are we going to move on to something else, or am I going to move on to another caller?
How about you explain why Joe Biden removed DNA testing for minors?
So we're going to get rid of Jared because he's obviously a clown who is just going to say a bunch of shit. And then you could hear how fucking upset he is that he wanted, like I said, is that 50% local or international, global, everywhere, or just the U.S. border? And then he said that the U.S. border is international, which yeah, technically. But I mean, I'm talking about all the borders. And the moment he saw that I knew what he had done to misrepresent that data, he did everything in his power to get the hell away from actually looking at it. And that's what happens when you hold people to it. Taga, who is, I believe, somebody I know in real life. He said, "Great seeing you at." Oh yeah, he does know me in real life because he sent me $5 on Venmo to say, "Great seeing you at Redacted Bar every Thursday. Keep up the good work. Money." Appreciate you, Taga. I'll see you on Thursday. I do have a weekly gig that it is technically public information where to find me on Thursday nights. I just lot of death threats this weekend. Let's not talk about it. And thank you, Lisa, for all the gifts on YouTube. Holy cow. We don't have a caller right now. We do have lots of viewership. We've got almost 600 people watching. So if everybody on TikTok could get double tapping away on the screen so we can maybe get a caller to actually present us with a source that we can look up. My goodness. They just don't want to look at those dang sources. They don't like it one bit. Hello, Noodle. W's in the chat for Noodle. Come here, Noodle. We don't have a caller. You can be the star. Ugh. There we go. She's a little too big to be a lap dog. Here, let's let your fur relax. You can be naked. Ugh. There we go. Oh, you just wanted to call her off? Okay, goodbye. Goodbye, Noodle. Oh, man. Philly for Life says, bro, eat something. Yeah, dude, like, I don't think you should tell somebody that they're underweight unless you know how tall they are. How about that? But if you want to talk about it, you can get in the request queue. I've been getting lots of bullying today. I'm surprised we haven't gotten a single harassment and bullying flag today. If you want to just come up and bully me, the show is, part of the show is entertainment, and people are entertained by people trying to bully Oskar, because it doesn't really work. I'm pretty good at talking to people who are mean to me. So we're going to talk to Penn Squared. We're going to see if Penn Squared is going to bully me. All done, Noodle. All done. How old are you?
I'm sorry.
Didn't mean to join. Okay. Was he sorry? I don't know. Yeah, it's just it's funny. I feel like that should be the move. It's like, if you're just gonna bully me, if you're just gonna come up and say that I'm a loser or whatever, just like say, like, hurl insults, I might just start doing the, like, it's camera time. Like, if you want to do that, you just gotta, like, I'm okay talking with people about their political beliefs anonymously, but it's just like when you're gonna be that deplorable, I think it's just like, have a backbone about it. Like, either show your face or get out of here. It's not brave to say mean things on the internet without showing your face. Showing your face that makes it a little bit more brave. Courtney, was Courtney in here earlier? I don't remember if I've spoken to Courtney today. We talked to a different Courtney today. That's what it was. Hello. How old are you?
Oh, hey, I didn't mean to join up, but while I'm up here, I was just tapping away. I just wanted to tell you that your dad's very proud of you. Keep up good work, buddy.
Appreciate you. Thank you, Courtney. Happy Father's Day, everybody. As I've been enjoying other people's lives more and more, I do find it is easy to accidentally join the request queue by clicking on the screen. So I will be lenient about that, because I know Courtney was just trying to help out by double tapping the stream on TikTok. W's in the chat for Courtney. And also get double tapping away on the screen, because we're going to lose the viewership if we don't get a caller. That's the irony of it, is that, like, the viewership goes down when I don't have a caller, but then that makes it less likely for me to get a caller, so I kind of have to, like, ride this wave. Maybe we're going to talk to one of our mods about a little disagreement that happened on the Discord yesterday. We shall see. But Jay's taking a good time to join, because we don't have a caller. How you doing?
How you doing? I'm doing great.
Remind everybody how old you are. I know I've had you on the air before.
I'm 18, going into college.
Oh, I didn't even know you were that young. I'd forgotten that. Do you want to tell everybody what we're talking about? You want to lay it out?
Yeah, so yesterday you were on a live with a Black American and stuff like that. And I didn't really get the full grasp of the argument, so I'll let you explain that. But you went along the lines of calling him racist, and then his rebuttal was, well, I can't be racist because, like, I'm a Black American. Mm-hmm. And, like, I just wanted to come up and say that I do support his claim on the fact that it is really hard as a Black American to perform what is known as racism.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, because I haven't re-listened to that section yet, I think I said before I said it that a black person has to do quite a lot to be called racist by me. What he did that made a little bell go off in my head that I felt comfortable doing it is that he said that Somalis are savages. Mm-hmm. That was the moment where I thought, okay, it's time to call this guy racist, even though he's black. The question is, though, can a black person be racist? And there was a little bit of an argument on the Discord about this. Somebody got banned from the Discord about it because they were not polite. It has nothing to do with the disagreement. In fact, I would argue that the person who got banned was actually on my side in it, and I'm the one who got them banned. So to be clear, it's not about, we do allow disagreement on the Discord. It was just bad behavior. It was not. There was some name calling and shouting. And it's just I think the rules for going forward is that hateful temper tantrums are welcome on the show. not on the Discord.
Yeah.
My issue with saying that a Black American can't be racist is that it suggests that the definition of racism is somehow, like, obviously the history of America is tangled up in racism. That's fucking obvious to anybody, I think. But I think to suggest that racism is necessarily tangled up in the history of America leaves a lot off the plate, because there's a lot of what we would call racism that happens in the world where there just aren't even white people involved. There aren't Americans involved. And I think that I'm willing to be outvoted on whether or not racism is the word we use for that, because at the end of the day, I'm a descriptivist, not a prescriptivist when it comes to language. So vocab time for everybody. A prescriptivist says this is what the word is, this is what it means, we have to use it this way, regardless of how people use it. And then a descriptivist is somebody who just looks at the way that people use language and says that that's what language is. So I can prescriptively be angry that the word racism doesn't apply to these sorts of situations. But if I'm to be descriptive about how people use the English language, I'm willing to just be outvoted on whether or not it's the appropriate word. But my follow-up question becomes, what is the word? What do I call a Black American who says that Somalis are savages, if not a racist?
Oh yeah, so to bring up your first point, when I was talking about Black Americans, you brought up on how like there's racism in the other world that is not caused by like people like white people. But to that I would say like America is just a powerhouse when it comes to world influence, when it comes to food, when it comes to multicultural. I mean, I could say that like Black Americans in terms of style of Nike and things like that do have an effect on the world in general. So when you are pushing these certain narratives, that kind of comes off as the idea where some people may have a certain opinion about how Black people are, let's say, I don't know, maybe in China or Japan. But can you tell me on your day-to-day average that they have so many interactions with Black people that they can then assert that opinion? I will confidently say no. I don't think like there are like in terms if you look at immigration in terms of like where Black people stay, there's just not big. There's not big enough migration or groups of them to have like the racist or bigotry thoughts people have about us, especially Black Americans, I have to say. So your second question would be, well, then what do you address a Black person who is projecting these bigotry thoughts without being in a position of power? Well, number one, every time I recognize any Black person saying that, it's never someone coming from a position of power. So when they talk about the savages, you know, people of their own skin color, and when they talk about, it's not just Somalians, it could be now I can't think of a Pacific Black ethno group in my head, but it could be any one of them. But
well, I guess my question really is like, do they have to be Black? Because I can imagine hypothetical country A, hypothetical country B. The people in country A are mostly pink skinned and the people in country B are mostly green skinned. And if the people who are green skinned in country B want everybody to live happily ever after, and the people in country A who are pink skinned think that they need to execute all the people who are green-skinned and wage a war to take over their country or a bunch of stuff like that, and they spread rumors about their behavior and stereotypes and stuff like that, and somebody asked me as an observer of country A and B, what's the issue? I'd be tempted to say that country A is racist against the people from country B, and that's really fundamentally what the problem is. And to me, it just seems very... It seems very American-centric. It seems very like almost narcissistic to be like, well, hold on, there's no Black Americans involved, therefore no racism. I guess in my brain, the definition of racism is much more generalized than that.
So when you talk about country A and country B, you're talking about a country that has military power, that has resources, maybe it has allies, it has a position within the world figure. Oh, they don't?
Maybe they don't.
Maybe they don't.
Maybe country B has all that, but country A has nothing and they live in huts. But they still think that the people in country B are less because of the color of their skin. And like that, none of that matters to me to whether or not what's in the heart of the people in country A is racism.
Well, it goes based off two things. So it goes based off history, because you don't come out the womb saying, oh, I don't like this, I don't like that. You are groomed to think that way. So that's one part of racism, is the bigotry, the prejudiced thoughts that Group A and Group B might have. Maybe something happened to their great-great-great-grandfather, and now they're prejudiced towards all of them. The second part, I would have to admit, is there has to be a systemic part within it. So there has to be a part where, I don't know, country blue comes over to country pink, and they are not given the same economical structure as country pink. They're not given the same social benefits as country pink. They're not seen the same law-wise, politically wise, systematically wise, for hundreds and hundreds of years. So I think it's kind of like almost like disingenuous, because one country can systematically change their country to make it against another. So I think it's not more so of how the country thinks, it's more so of how they operate. Because
so for transparency's sake, I'll just tell the audience, you and I spoke on the phone for like 5 minutes yesterday, mostly because we needed to deal with that. We had to ban somebody from the Discord. So, but then once we got down to this actual point of disagreement about what racism means, I basically said we should have this conversation on the air. I think this is interesting because we're friendlies who both work on the show who disagree with each other about this. But I said something that I'll point out to everybody now, that I'll just see if, having talked with me a little bit more about it just now, I do think that you and I do not disagree about what is happening in the world. We only disagree about potentially the definition and use of words here. So we're just having this is a purely semantic argument at the end of the day. And calling that caller racist yesterday is not a hill I'm going to die on. You know, like if I have more, everybody who watched it, and even people in the chat today are saying that I need to talk to Santana about this. I'd love to talk to Santana about this. He's been on the show before, and I'd love to have him again to talk to him about it. I'd value his perspective a lot on it, because I know he spends a lot of time on his show talking about that sort of thing, and I frankly haven't. Like the issue of like what specifically is racism by definition. Can a person who's non-white or outside of an American context be racist? Like that's just a topic we haven't really covered on the show. But I guess the reason I haven't put the time in on it is because I think that my worldview is an accurate one, regardless of the words that are being used, and as long as we're clear about all that. But it is. Somebody in the chat's pointing out that Santana would have hated the caller yesterday. Well, again, it's like I think we all agree here about what's going on. We just disagree about what the word is. But I guess I'm trying to get to the rub of it. I'm trying to get to specifically what the difference is. I think that the two definitions that you and I are maybe disagreeing about, and I'm kind of just sitting here agnostic. Like I said, I'm so happy to just be outvoted because I'm a descriptivist, not a prescriptivist when it comes to language, is a power structure required for racism. Because growing up, just learning what the word racism means, it's so simple. It's that if you see somebody who looks a certain way, and if you think something about them because of the way they are, their skin color or their phenotypic features, if you think that matters for their character, that's what makes you a racist. That's what I learned when I was little, growing up in a very progressive environment. I went to school in the West Village, the gay district of Manhattan. I grew up in a hyper progressive environment. I was surrounded by people. I miss walking down the street and hearing 20 different languages and seeing people where I wonder, what a funny outfit. Where does that person live? Where are they visiting from? I grew up in this melting pot, and what I was taught as I learned English, my first language, that racism is when you see a person and you don't like them, or you make opinions about them based on the color of their skin or what race they are generally. Like that's plain as day what racism is for me. So there's this greater conversation about critical race theory and institutionalized racism and the ways in which systems can be racist, even if the people participating in them aren't necessarily racist. Like I think that policing in America is a racist thing, even if somebody who engages with it in some way is trying their damnedest to not be racist. I can recognize all that nuance and get educated on it, but it just comes down to what we want the word to mean. And I don't know. I guess maybe the word is bigot, right? Like that's the one that the chat has been going after. The chat's also offered xenophobic.
Prejudice or bigot.
Yeah, I'll push back on xenophobic. I think xenophobia refers to a psychological phenomenon that we all need to watch out for, and it's not exactly what I'm talking about. I think that's separate. But like, I can accept that the caller yesterday was bigoted towards Somalis. That seems uncontroversial to say. But yeah,
can I explain the difference? Actually, you were trying to, and I think the difference is that I want to like hammer down on. It's just the systematic structure within it, and that's why I say the U.S. is the world influence and the world power. So when you have the world influence and the world power being bigoted and being prejudiced, then that is the birth format of racism. And I when I say empower, I'm talking about financiers, bank bros, not just presidents. I'm talking the people who own BlackRock, people who own Tesla, these trillionaires who control our media, who control our policy, who controls what comes into our ship ports, or who controls what goes into our food. What the color I see, I look at them, it is not one of my people. So when these policies that are in place that just puts Black Americans at an unfair advantage, or rural Americans, like putting data centers out in the middle of nowhere at a town residence of 2,000, like little things like these that are very detrimental to the earth, detrimental to populations, minority communities. These are not being implemented by Black people. Or I could even say these are not being implemented by people of color. When these policies, when these ideas, when these things be brought up, they're always brought up, no offense, by a white person, and it's always within the idea to kind of threaten or destabilize a minority. I think it works in the same sense of when Donald Trump went around saying, oh, the Haitians are eating the cats and dogs, like stuff like that. It's like, sure. They're very, it's stuff like that where I can accept that that's the umbrella that you create with the term racism, and you put a lot of stuff in it. I guess what I struggle with in terms of understanding, like, is are you going to use the words white people and Black people when defining the word racism? Like, is it necessarily tied to this history of America? Because the thing I'll say about what happened yesterday, where I called a black collar racist for saying that Somalis are savages, he used the word savages. Even if we're going to use this context piece about how there has to be some existing power structure, that caller yesterday was benefiting from the power structure that he's a part of as a citizen of the United States, because he as a citizen of the United States who's not Somali gets to benefit from the power structure that is the U.S. government. Donald Trump just this year took away the asylum status of 700 of my Somali neighbors here in Minnesota, just turned them into illegal immigrants by the stroke of the pen, and that's something that puts them in danger, obviously, as we know, as we talk about on the show a lot. So I can point to that as a power structure and say that caller yesterday was benefiting from it. So he meets the definition that you're offering me. The only issue is that his skin isn't white. And no, he's not the one implementing the policies, though. Like you said, Donald Trump is the one that snapped the finger away and took the Somali. He's just the one advocating for it. And that's what I mean. But you have to ask yourself, well, if they do implement these policies and once they get all the Somalis, you think, oh, they're going to stop there. Oh, they got all the Somalis. Let's leave all the Black people alone now. No, and that's just my point when I bring it up. The people who implement these policies. Now, of course, I'm saying a Black person can be racist. If all of our world leaders, if all of if everyone who are implementing these terrible policies were the color of my people, then yes, I can then say in that word, yes, we are being racist. It's just, it's not. And I'm sorry to be the one that says it. It's not. When you're talking about and I'm saying worldwide, you're talking about bombing kids, exportation, all these crazy things, there tends to be some old white man, like the Epstein files, like tends to be like some old white man who's controlling all the strings. So when you're asking me like, oh, like a Black person can be racist, I'm not disputing that. I'm just saying at this very moment, right now when we speak, it is very hard because it's very hard for a Black person to get in a position of power to be racist. And like you said, we have callers like that. So why would we... Also, can I clarify? Sorry.
Well, I just want to respond to that directly, which is that if we're going to look at a person's character and say, is this a racist person or is this not? The caller yesterday seems to me like somebody where if he was white, he would be magnificently racist. But because he's not, he has a pretty hard time being racist. But then he goes and calls Somalis savages, and there's people saying that Somalia is a country, not a race. And I don't know, it gets a little nitty gritty.
Well, because race is based off color.
Well, so it's a little more specific than that, because there are color, color isn't everything. There are different ethnic groups. I, as somebody who lives in Minneapolis, just straightforwardly, I can tell the difference between a West African walking down the street and a Somali American, because
but most people can't. That's the thing.
I can, because I live among a large Somali population, so I can see them. I can point out that there are white people here who are racist against Somalis in a way that's different from their being racist against Black Americans generally. Because, like I said, if you live in a place like I do, you might come to know, oh, that's probably somebody of Somali descent, and that this person looks more West African. They might be from Liberia or something, or perhaps more Central Africa. Maybe they're Ugandan. I know enough about linguistics that I can hear the accent and judge which country of Africa you're likely to be from, because I know the different accents. I've studied that stuff. So there is like more nuance for a lot of people, and I guess I take difficulty with for me. Like I think the most. I think the biggest pushback I'll give you, Jay, is that I feel like you're gatekeeping racism as it might pertain to you, but not necessarily other people. And I think that's like, if we're just going to accept that we need to use the terms that everybody uses, I think that's the problem I have with maybe using the word in the way that you want me to, which is that it leaves a lot of people who are the victims of racism out of the discussion, because you don't want to call what's happening to them racism. So I struggle with that.
Well, when you talk about the Somali, and this is what I mean by race. Someone like yourself may be as fortunate as enough to live around Somalis. You may be able to tell the difference between a West African and Ethiopian. But someone that is from rural Texas, I can tell you, as I'm fortunate enough to grow up in Austin, Texas, but I travel to Waco and all that. They don't care that, oh, I'm from Haiti, he's from Jamaica, we're all Black to them. And that's my point about race. When it comes to race, there is no, oh, they're Somali, he's German, oh, he's Russian, oh, he's British. No, it's, but that does happen. Guys are all white. And of course it does happen, but it doesn't happen a lot, often. But I'm saying it doesn't happen often.
I live in a place where it happens a lot.
And you live in I live in a place where, if you're talking about racism, people don't get discriminated because they're a Haitian American, because they're a Jamaican American. They get discriminated because of the color of their skin.
No, I don't think that's.
I'll disagree with you on there, because when a cop feels threatened, they're not threatened by a Jamaican American. They're threatened by the color of someone's skin.
I'm not saying that there aren't tons of racist people. Cops are a good example.
No, but I'm saying there's tons of racist people in power. That's the difference.
Right. But there are people in power in Minneapolis. There are people in power in the government who do things that are bad for Somali Americans because they don't like Somali Americans for some particular reason. And those things don't necessarily affect all Black-skinned Americans. So I just think that you can point to these big examples that we have to deal with, because I hate the way policing happens in America. It's a deeply fucked up and racist institution. It's a deeply fucked up and racist institution regardless of which of the definitions of racism we're using. Both mine and yours apply. And I'm not even defending mine all that hard, because I really just want to use whatever terms best describe what is happening so that people understand what I'm saying, which is how I try to speak English. So maybe it's because I'm so connected to the Somali community here, but I feel like to concede completely in this argument would be to debate, because this is a friendly conversation. For anybody who wasn't here at the beginning, I am talking to one of the mods of the show in the Discord. This is a friend I'm talking to, but we just disagree about the definition of the word racism. So, the only reason I don't want to concede completely and just say, sure, we can define it that way, is because I feel like there are a lot of people who get thrown under the bus, because if you're not part of this mainstream American racism, suddenly you get left out of the discussion, when I think what's happening specifically to the Somalis is racist. There's a large Hmong community here, and I also think what happens to them is racist in a way that's specific to who they are. We have communities of people who are Chinese or Japanese or Korean or other East Asian countries, and one of the complaints from the Hmong community here is that those groups of people are racist towards them. I don't want to be the asshole that says no, they're not.
Can I ask one thing?
Sure.
Two things. Number one is I'm gonna be the first one to say it. What's going through Somalis is very bad, but what is going on with Somalis is not going on because they are from the country of Somalia, and people don't like most people can't even point out Somalia if you put it on a map and point it out. What they are upset about is that there are Black people in Minnesota. From what I read about it, scandaling some money, doing some white collar crime, funneling some money. So I have to say it goes back to the whole race thing. It's like, we can agree, yes, they're Somalian. That is the main target. Of course, it's not other Black people. It's specifically Somalians. But if you then ask yourself, well, is it because of the country? Is it because of what the country of Somalia or what the country has done to America? Or is it because of the systemic thoughts that has been instilled in white people, that where if they were to see, I don't know, a Black person do something that I could say white people do all the time, embezzled money, they do it all the time, that they feel like they have to get their toothpicks and pitchforks and riot, and all the Uncle Ruckuses comes up and helps them up. It's in that same aspect.
I think we understand each other's positions, like I as you say that's all consistent with what you've been saying about it. But I'll take a spot from a line from the chat, because somebody said, so the Rwandan genocide is not racism. Because according to your the Rwandan genocide was dark-skinned individuals genociding other dark-skinned individuals, so it doesn't meet the definition of racism that you use.
I'm talking about American racism. I make sure I clarified in my first point. No, I make sure I clarified my first point. I said Black people can be racist, and I made sure I said anyone can be racist, and I gave the example by saying if you put people in power, like the Rwanda genocide, yes, those were Black people in power committing a racist genocide against.
Just to interrupt quickly, because somebody in the chat immediately said that Rwanda is not a race.
Not a race,
but within Rwanda,
it's a color.
Within Rwanda, there were two ethnic groups: the Hutu, what is it? The
Hutins and the
Hutu and the Tutsis.
Yeah,
and it was these ethnic groups versus each other. So you can zoom in closer and say that they both have dark skin, but they are different ethnic groups that are waging, at that time, one a genocide against the other. So I guess it's very interesting to me that when I point this out, you immediately come back and say, well, no, that's American racism. So I ask, are we defining American racism, or are we defining racism?
When you talk, I'm saying racism is systemic. When you bring up the Rwanda genocide, it's a genocide, I would say, against like two ethnic groups. Two ethnic groups. You can't say it was because of the color of the skin, but more so because of civil conflict within the country and the politicians, like the civil politics within the country. I can more call it of a civil war than anything, but I feel like it's a bit different. And yes,
would you call it a genocide?
A genocide? Yeah, I would.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't understand why you feel the need to give it the label of civil war, because I think that genocides are on average worse than civil wars. I think that
because
genocide is necessarily worse.
Two political ethnic groups. So it started between two political ethnic groups that have been switching hand-to-hand power between time and time again. It's just one political ethnic group, it happened overnight. I did read about it. It happened overnight where people of other ethnic groups were protecting their neighbors and I know ethnic groups are not race, which is why it is hard to call it racism. It's really just ethnic groups fighting against each other, because they're not fighting against each other because they're Black. Racism has to do with the color. That's why when people say white people, you can zoom in and be like, well, technically he's British, technically he's German, technically he's this. So I'll go the same way you can do with Black people.
Well, I just want to go back to an example I brought up earlier, and I just want to get your thinking on it. Members of the Hmong community here, who are an East Asian community who don't actually have a country that they're from because their history is messier than that, and they kind of were a people without a home back east. Mm-hmm. They complain about Chinese, Japanese, and Korean people and Vietnamese people being racist to them. It's a common, it's like a trope, so would you, if you were in the room, if you were sitting around the coffee table with me having beers with some of my buddies, and I had a Hmong friend who said, oh man, it's just so difficult. We face so much racism from the Chinese and the Japanese and these other people who do have a nation. Would you interrupt them and say that's not racism?
No, because if they can point to the systemic part of where it came from, the policies, the laws, the things like that, which I do say there's racism performed in other countries. I'm not disputing that. It's just when I'm talking about America, I'm talking about the racism within here. It tends to happen between a white and a black person. There could be racism between I'm saying there can be racism between a Korean and a Japanese. It's just you really don't see it in the aspect you do with American racism because it's so unique.
Yeah, I just feel like to those people, the word racism means that. To you, racism means something else.
No, mine is the textbook definition. So there needs to be a systemic part of racism.
I'm curious because I just haven't even looked at this since I college.
There needs to be a systemic.
What does Merriam-Webster say racism is?
there needs to be a systemic part of racism. So yes, people can say, oh, in my neighborhood where it was a diverse group, yeah, I was bullied for being blah, blah, blah. But the government are not implementing laws because you're that way. And that would be my only rebuttal to that.
Well, so I guess here's where I am on this. As a descriptivist, I do just assert that too many people use the word racism in the way that I defined it at the beginning of the call for us to ignore that. And Merriam-Webster agrees because Merriam-Webster has two there's probably more than one. Let's see. Nope, just two. There are two. Mm-hmm. And they are exactly the two definitions that you and I are arguing about. The first one is a belief that race is a fundamental determinant of human traits and capacities, and that racial differences produce an inherent superiority of a particular race, which is a definition that would apply to the caller yesterday, because he thought that being Somali, and I do think that a smaller racial group is still a racial group, even if it's not all black-skinned people, dark-skinned people, think that definition applies to him. But then definition 2 is the one that you want to use, which is the systematic oppression of a racial group to the social, economic, and political advantage of another, which I think is a nice, concise way of putting your side of it. You can let me know if you agree or not.
Oh, no, I agree. I agree.
So what I guess in terms of the broader discussion we're having, and I don't want to give it the whole show, so we are probably going to wrap it here unless you have like a lot more to add. It does just seem that there are two definitions of the word. And when there's two definitions of a word like that, maybe we need to clarify in a very specific conversation which of them we're using to be careful. But I would just argue that both are correct. English is messy. Did I lose you? I think the white noise went away. Are you still there? Did we lose Jay? Oh, what an unfortunate time to lose Jay. Are you there? Is my sound not working? No, I can see my volume meters are not showing that there's sound on the line. L connection.
Hello? Sorry,
Hello.
I had a bad connection. Sorry, did you hear my question?
Well, sorry, where I lost you is I had asked the question, given that the dictionary says that both of our definitions, one of the dictionary offers two definitions. One of them is the one that I'm describing. One of them is the one that you're describing. When the dictionary says that there's two common uses of a word, I do the same thing every time, which is I say both are right. Sometimes we have to clarify which one we mean.
Well, no, I just want to clarify. Do you like the ism part in terms of like racism? I'm assuming you know what that means. Ism, like if you were talking about fascism, racism, sexism, things like that.
I actually don't think I know specifically what you're about to offer ties all those things together.
Okay, so ism is like a practice, system, or philosophy within like these ideologies. I'm sorry, I'm bad at my English. So it's like a movement. So when people call it sexism, they're saying that, hey, there's a system, there's a practice, there's a philosophy, there's a political ideology against us that is not true. The same way people, when they say, I could say racism. Hey, for my race, there's a system, philosophy, ideology, movement that's against my people.
I disagree with this definition of ism because there are lots of examples of isms that don't meet that burden. I'm a pragmatist. I practice pragmatism when it comes to making decisions about politics, which is why I think we should vote in the midterms, and the leftists are mad at me about that. Because pragmatically, I think it's important to do that. I don't think that there is necessarily an organized system of control or anything like that required for a person to look at a problem and say, you know what, I'm going to be a pragmatic person about this. I'm going to practice some pragmatism.
No, I'm just saying when you look at the word ism and you look at like sexism, racism, the word definition matters because it isn't just there to sound nice. The word means it's a political ideology movement. There's a book on all the isms in the world because ism is a practice system and political ideology movement that is formed based off of prejudice and bigotry thoughts.
Does an ism require more than one person?
No, an ism requires a system of people. Well, yeah, I'll say yes. It requires a system and people to believe in that system.
I could be the last man on earth. Everybody could die of a horrible disease, and I'd be the last man standing. I am legend type stuff, right? I'm the only man on earth, and I could say, all right, how do I want to live my life? There's some things I need to figure out. I need to be pragmatic about this. I should practice that pragmatism I'm talking about. And I'd be doing that even though I was the only person on earth. So, like, I'm not trying to be difficult and semantic. I'm just, when we want to get to strict definitions, I need strict definitions for me have to be watertight. And I feel like accepting that the word racism can mean both versions of the word does that. It covers what people generally mean when they use the word, but getting caught on this bit about it being an ism, I just don't think it's a very strong assertion you're making about isms. I'm sitting here trying to think of maybe other counter examples. Maybe the chat can help us come up with different isms that we can see if this applies to. Because I just feel it's a aggressive blanket statement to make about isms when so many isms are things that you can do without other people.
Well, no, the way I think about isms, it works in the sense of of a political movement being formed against you. So I can take the example autism and things like that. I can take that's a movement people are pushing because there's certain sets of belief of autism where people think, oh, if you're autistic, you're stupid, you're not made to function in the world. But then when people actually did the research behind autistic people, hey, autistic people are actually pretty fucking smart. They're actually smarter than your average human being, and they can actually pinpoint down very niche topics and subjects that other humans, it takes them years to master. So I guess that's my only difference between when I talk about kind of racism, that part in the movement and political practice system. Because I can say, yeah, I don't like a specific color, race, but if there's not a movement, a political ideology, some kind of system or practice that is backing me up in those aspects, then I'm kind of just like spewing almost nonsense in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, all that again remains consistent. I think that the place where I end up today, the thing that I'm getting a little stuck on is just, it still just comes down to the fact that some people define it that way, and a lot of people define it the other way. And I will point out that Merriam-Webster puts the most common definition first, the one that they see to be the most common definition, and number one is my definition, and number two is your definition. I think where I sit right now at what I'm going to call the conclusion of this conversation is that there's two definitions of racism, and as a debate host, I need to be really fucking careful which one I use. Seems unpopular to use the first definition to refer to black people. I'm not going to regret too deeply having called a black person racist for calling Somalis savages. Oh, no. I mean, at the end of the day, you and I agree that guy sucks and is very hateful of Somalis, which is really what I was getting at. But I'm going to keep chewing on this, and I'd love to talk to Santana about it. That's not me wishing that's not too wishful of thinking, because he has been on the show before. He's aware of me.
I'm just confused on, because I think I hammered it very clear on the systematic part of it and the ones implementing the structure. Now, of course, I'm going to be the first. I always say black people can be racist. That I'm never disputing that, but in my aspect of it's really hard in terms of race, because race has to do with color. It's really hard to be racist against your own race, because if you're saying, oh, all Somalis need to be locked up, well, someone like you, they may be able to tell, oh, a Somalian from a West African. Most people can't. They see black people, they think that's black.
I just think that
that's just the truth. And
pursuant to that other definition of racism, though, if a person can tell the difference between a Somali American and a West African American, and they do see that difference, and they go, oh, I don't like that guy because he's Somali. That to me just is racism.
Well, you have to ask them why.
Let me ask you this. Mm-hmm. That other definition of racism that you don't like, the one that's also in the dictionary, do you recognize that definition still does apply in the situation that I just gave, where you could have, it doesn't even matter who the person we're talking about is, you could have a black-skinned person look at a person walking down the street and go, I know that that's not just somebody of African descent, that is somebody of Somali descent, and I don't like Somalis. And that would be a racist thing to say, according to the first definition, which you don't recognize. I'm just asking if you recognize that definition does apply in that situation.
Well, I'm not trying to like pivot or rebuttal, but my thought would then be like, well, where did they get that thought from? Like, people, that's my whole point. People don't just naturally think this.
But where the thought, worrying about where that thought comes from has to do with the other definition of racism. Whereas the first definition of racism listed in the Merriam-Webster dictionary just says making projections about a person's character and qualities of personhood based on their racial group, their outward appearance.
Well,
so that definition.
I'll give you.
I'm not asking you if you agree with that definition. I'm asking if, according to that definition, that you disagree with my example.
No, I'm saying racism. Like I see what you mean. I'm gonna give a really good example. I think it works in the same way of if I were to say something about Israel or Jewish people, I could be labeled as anti-Semitic. But if you look at the definition of Semites, they're basically means the whole Middle East is anyone who speaks the Islamic Hebrew language. So I could be I could be a racist, I could be anti-Semitic. But if you look at the actual definition, if you try to actually put the definition in, applied to that person, it wouldn't work out, because for racism, you need to be in a position of power. Yes, in that aspect, I can be racist. I mean, it works in the same sense of
I guess the thing that I'm really struggling with the way this conversation is flowing is that you seem to be having a difficult time just recognizing that this other definition of racism that loads and loads of people use doesn't require a system of power.
Well, no, I that's why I gave the example of the anti-Semite. I can, if you look at the word Semite, I can technically be a anti-Semite if I'm talking about Jewish people, but I'll need to talk about the whole Middle East. The same way, I can be a racist if I have these prejudiced, bigotry thoughts towards one group. But that's just one key aspect of it. And I think you start to dilute the meaning and dilute the definition if you then start calling everyone who have these prejudice and bigotry thoughts racist, because they're not.
I think in terms of how we handle the fact that there are two definitions floating around is that I do just think it's important to recognize that a lot of people mean the first definition that you disagree with. And I don't think it's always going to be the most constructive thing to say, hey, hold on, everybody, that's not racism the way that I define it. I think it's important to recognize what people mean when they say words, and to be the snoot to go, actually it's to whom. It's like, nothing to do. We understood what the guy was saying. It doesn't matter. And that's the perspective that I try to come from. And I think when I called that caller racist yesterday, I think if I said this, why'd you call him racist? That he's a black American who was racist against Somalis. I think that gets across to most people what the problem was. And just trying to get across to the most people possible is what language is for. You're effectively speaking English if you convey your meaning effectively, regardless. It seems to me like you're being a bit of a prescriptivist about what racism should mean instead of describing what racism does mean to the average speaker of English.
No, I'm not being a perspective. I gave the perfect definition. I said it's systemic.
Wait, I'm sorry. I just have to jump on it. Giving the perfect definition is something that a prescriptivist would say, not a descriptivist.
No, it's if I ask you, oh, what's the like, what's the definition of, like, you know, like, you can, I see, I don't want to get into, like, I understand what you're saying, the perfectionist and things like that. I could actually, like, oh, what's the definition of a table? You could say, oh, like something with a rectangular shape with 4 legs, and then I could be like, well, actually, a table can have 2 legs, a table can have 3 legs.
Right.
Yeah,
but we're talking about whether or not what is meant to be conveyed is conveyed. And I think I'm still going to conclude that I conveyed something accurate about that caller yesterday when I said it.
Well, no, because the way I think about it, I look at the actual definition and not what is considered within modern terms, because that's literally, I gave the example of anti-Semitic. That's how these things get watered down.
But that's being a prescriptivist about it, which is, I think, where we're disagreeing.
Well, I mean, you could call me a prescriptive, I guess, but it works if I just want to be correct about certain terminologies the same way I can.
Well, that's what being a prescriptivist means. You care more about what is technically historically correct for a definition versus the way that people actually use the word. And there's lots of words that have changed meanings over the years. You know, I could be a snoot and say that, like, meme refers to something that Richard Dawkins wrote about in The Selfish Gene in 1976, if I'm not mistaken, having to do with the ways that ideas pass from individuals to other people and spread in similar ways to genes. And you can use this biological definition of, like, genes transfer as an analog for discussing how ideas transfer. No. I know that when I say meme, most people think I'm talking about, like, an internet picture with maybe some text on it. I'm not going to be the asshole who knows the exact time the first time the word meme was uttered, because it was just made up by Richard Dawkins to talk about this sociological thing that he was using genetics as an analog for. He literally made it up as a mixture of the word memory and gene, meme. But they spread. But the meme that is the definition of the word meme has been passed around and changed in the very way that he described in that book 50 years ago, such that now to somebody walking down the street, meme isn't this technical term from a biology book from the past. It refers to, like, jokes on the internet, like rumors and funny pictures and jokes and stuff. And that's just, I recognize that because I'm not a prescriptivist. We can have an interesting conversation about that history. We just did, I'd argue. But I'm not, it's not beneficial for me to go around correcting people who use the word meme incorrectly according to Richard Dawkins in the 70s, because I would bet, according to Richard Dawkins today, because I think he's still alive, he probably would agree with me that the meaning of the word has changed in a way that's delightfully ironic given what the word meant and means.
Well, I mean, I feel like we're, like, I want to say being a bit kind of like comparing a meme to a political term, because when a political term changes, that means a movement, a society, and a world kind of changes with it. The same way how, and I don't want to go into small spiels about it, but I think, and I saw the word xenophobia, which is another word that I can give to what the guy was being. But I think just in
I don't think xenophobia is actually accurate. I mean, it might be. It might have been accurate of that caller, but it would be for different reasons, because I don't define, like, this issue of there being 2 definitions of racism. One that I recognize. I actually recognize both of them. You seem to only recognize one of them. And calling the other thing xenophobia doesn't fix it, because xenophobia refers to something else, a psychological phenomenon. Phobia has technical meaning if we want to be a prescriptivist.
Because here's the part, I can acknowledge that people didn't just, and like we're talking about Somalians, I can acknowledge people didn't just wake up one day and always had Somalians on their mind. Like, I am being very genuine when I say there are most people who can't even point out Somalia or the genocide or what's going on in Somalia, but they saw it on TV, they saw black people. And that's the part of the racism that I am talking about, which is, yes, there's certain aspects on where someone can be targeted for their ethnic and their it's basically xenophobia, but where the country where they're from, where they originated from.
Targeting,
but I feel
I'm going to cut you off, because I just feel like if we're going to keep going down this rabbit hole, we have to define xenophobia. And my definition of xenophobia, without looking it up, is a essentially physiological response that a person has to seeing somebody who looks different than them. And that's related to racism because people are racist because of xenophobia, but it is a known human psychological instinct to be xenophobic. If you see somebody who looks different than anybody you've ever seen before, that elicits fear in humans. And the way that we fix that is in society, we make sure that children grow up in an environment where they're exposed to people of all kinds so that no people are unusual looking to them, and that quells the problem of them becoming racist as a result of their xenophobia. I think xenophobia is a biological term.
I would have to disagree because as someone from Haiti, and I've been to Haiti, I've been to the Dominican Republic, those people look like me, I look like them, but Dominican Republic is very xenophobic to Haitians. If they find out you're a Haitian, they're very xenophobic, and it has... We look exactly alike. We share the same country. We're both on the same body of land. It's one little island. It's not bigger than any state in the U.S. We share the border. We come from the same people. We were enslaved. It's just one people were enslaved by the Spanish, one people were enslaved by the French, and because of that, now they have this dislike or this prejudice.
Well, hold on. Towards... You're going down a really deep rabbit hole on what you think the definition of xenophobia would be, but I'm just going to argue that you're wrong. We looked at Merriam-Webster earlier when we saw that Merriam-Webster recognizes both definitions of racism that I consider, only one of which you consider to be accurate. But Merriam-Webster's definition of xenophobia is fear and hatred of strangers or foreigners or of anything that is strange or foreign. I got it pretty close, I would argue.
Let me get my book because I will have to disagree because I like the actual definition of xenophobia has to pertain towards a person's place of origin, if I'm not mistaken. Not more. Well, I mean, and you can call that stranger. You can call that.
That's how I was arguing that what you're doing is a little incorrect because I don't think that that's what xenophobia is. Xenophobia refers to this habit, this little instinctive things that humans have, which is that when something is strange or unusual to us, we're averse to it. That was good during our evolution because if something was outside of the tribe, it probably was dangerous. So we go on red alert when things are unusual, and we can learn about biology and about human instincts and about anthropology and go, you know what? Because people are so naturally xenophobic, it's really good to make sure that children are exposed to people of all kinds so that xenophobia doesn't become racism, that doesn't turn into this long-standing hatred. So like that, this is all nuanced and connected. But if you have a particular book that defines xenophobia in that way, I'd argue it's against the grain. Disagrees with the dictionary?
It's not. I have a book where it defines all the isms. So it's a book on autism, anti-Semitism, fascism. It's basically a book on the political and movements that shape our society to what it's known today. But when I talk about xenophobia, I think what I really hammer about is it might be something foreign, yes, but it's something foreign, I could say, from a different continent. Because someone from a white person that's immigrated from Germany and a white person that immigrated from Britain, or a white person that has blonde hair and a white person that has brown hair, they're not feeling like some kind of tension in their heart beating up because, oh, the brown haired people are walking by and I'm a blonde hair and I'm gonna get in trouble. No, they feel safe because they're just around white people, and that's the safety and security they get.
Yeah, I just straightforwardly and honestly, I feel like when asked the definition of a word like xenophobia, you kind of have this place in your greater worldview that you want it to fit and sit, and I just think that's not how we define words. I think we need to establish what the word means to us and then use it correspondingly. Whereas you're creating a lot of baggage for the word xenophobic to carry. You're creating a lot of baggage for the word racism to carry, when the broader discussion was about the fact that there are two definitions of racism that are recognized by the dictionary, and people walking down the street might believe in one of them, they might believe in the other one, and there might be somebody like me that recognizes both of them. But to argue that somebody's wrong for using one of them is just a little bit silly, and it is prescriptivist instead of descriptivist. And unless we want to go back and speak Shakespearean English whenever we think the old school pure English comes from, we shouldn't be prescriptivists. It's not an effective way to communicate.
Well, no, I once again, I don't clarify. I don't think it's wrong. That's why I gave my opinion about it, so I can inform you guys about it. I will say, I think it's disingenuous to know the difference between the two definitions, to know the difference between a prejudice, a bigotrous, a xenophobic, a racist, and things like that, and to say, oh, like, yeah, that man's racist. Because no, he wasn't groomed out of the womb to hate his own skin color. That is the that is the systemic internal part that he is battling with, because he's constantly seeing negative stuff about his own people, to where he don't want to be that. He wants to be a part of with the white tees, but it's really hard to when they won't see you like that. So that's just my only point in that. It's just there's multiple definitions on how to describe someone like himself, and I think a racist is a very like disingenuous when it's not him. I'm not going to be the one to say, yeah, he's the one that thinks all Somalians are bad. No, I think he's being groomed to think that. I think he's being groomed by the media, by certain people to think, yeah, Somalians are taking your money and doing all this and that and the third. Like I generally do. Did I cut out? Sorry. Like I don't believe like that's an ideology that he's coming up with just as an American. Like it's something.
I guess I just struggle with the fact that you're like jumping through hoops to make his behavior different because he's black. Whereas if a white person did it, you would just call him racism.
Well, because it's just he does not benefit from a systematical structure. The same like there's no check mark where it says Somalian or African American. It's just we're all one category. That's literally how it is. We're all put into one.
Not according to the caller yesterday, who thought that Somalians were savages. Somalis is the correct term.
Well, I don't know. I can think Jeffrey Epstein was a good person, but am I right? No, I'm not. So he can think, oh, Somalians are savages, but that is just his bigotry and prejudice and self-hate think. Because if you ask him, oh, what do you think of other minority black ethnic groups that are not, you can call quotation marks, civilized, he will probably run down the same rabbit hole of them being savages.
You've said in this call that black people can be racist.
Yeah, I'm saying
if calling a group of people savages isn't racist for a black person to do, what is?
Calling them savages is
I was actually about to answer that. Wait, I was about to answer that. I am the mayor. I have an influence of the people. I can say something and people will believe me without even researching, without even double checking if I'm factually correct. So that is then within my position of power. If I'm now saying, hey, all black people are bad, that is then within systemic racism.
But if you're doing that to define whether or not what they're doing is racism, then why is it that a white person doesn't have to be mayor to be racist? And I can jump in and say probably because they're white and they benefit from the system in the first place. But the idea that that's baked into the definition of the word suggests that racism is like going to be completely impossible to get rid of, and that like if we reboot.
Well, no, that literally is. It's hard to break a system the same way.
Yeah, I agree with those institutionalized problems.
It's very hard to get rid of. Like I'm not disputing. Yes, racism. It will probably not be gone within my lifetime. It probably will not be gone within my kid's lifetime.
I can recognize that racism in America is this systemic thing that's very hard to get rid of. But like, let's say that like the nukes fly and almost everybody on Earth dies. Let's say all the white people die, right? Like we're all gone. And then there's a new society, and some of the people in that society are what I might call racist against some other people in the society. If somewhere along the way you had to go, well, hold on, we don't have any white people to include in our judgment of whether or not people are racist, then whatever we'd use to determine whether or not people were being racist would just apply to those people regardless of the color of their skin. And I think that the assessment that you're doing of that man's, like the things that he said and believes, is dependent on the color of his skin, which there, you know, I could snootily point out that that's a little racist. No, it's the first definition of racism that we looked at in the dictionary says considering the color of a person's skin when making judgments about their character. So if you're going to consider a person's skin color when you're judging whether or not they're going to be racist, that it's in and of itself meets the definition of racism in a way that I'm not going to like die on a hill about, because I don't think that's constructive to say. But again, it's just I feel like you have opinions about racism as a topic in America and in your life and in the current zeitgeist, and you're really shoehorning the definitions to meet what's going on in the world instead of having definitions that will stand the test of time effectively. We should still be able to talk about racism outside the context of American history and American racism.
Well, I mean, if you just look at the fundamental start of the race whole theory and the whole like race ideology, because back then you could tell a German from a Norwegian, they just weren't all labeled as white. The whole ideology comes from, what's his name, Christian Darwin, like a white male. So that's why racism, one of the big key parts. I don't think that Charles Darwin invented racism. I'm sorry. I'm saying he invented the race theory. I'm saying he invented, let me finish. I said he invented the race theory. He wrote he wrote a reasonably racist book by modern standards about how that put white people on the tippity top of genetic, superiority. He thought that white people were like at the front of the pack in terms of development. He was wrong. He's a racist. Racism. Yeah, that was bad. I just don't think that like racism started with him or anything like that. No, I'm saying, but he breeded the fundamental parts, because every person
so did every slave owner though.
I mean, every slave owner was, if you go back to the time of the run to Africa, I'm pretty sure they cut up Africa like a pie. So if I'm an African tribe leader, I'm going to help my own before I help others, because they just took my land. So I feel like, the Brits also did that in the Middle East, which is why we still have such... Well, I'm not British, nor am I white. So I don't know. Every time I hear, it sounds like to me there are white people, like not white people. I'm saying, it sounds like to me there are people being terrorized, and it tends to not be, when in this worldwide sense, people of color. It tends to be people, I can argue, that look more like you, that want certain systemic powers to be the status quo and to not change. That's why it's very hard, like, that's why it's called systemic. Like, that part is so important, because if you don't have that systematic you keep falling back. It's almost like, I forgive me for being this direct with you, but it almost seems to me as though you have some amnesia about the fact that that systemic part is baked into one of the two definitions of racism that we looked at, and the dictionary and most people recognize both of them. Somebody in the chat just pointed out that everybody recognizes both of them, and then somebody followed up and said that everybody except for you do. Like, do you recognize that? I'm acknowledging that in the modern term, the term has been diluted to mean two different things. I gave you the same example of anti-Semitic on how it's been diluted to now mean, I can say, two completely different things. But that still brings my point, where if you were to just look at the actual word and like the definition, it's the whole systemic part. And I'm being serious, when you ignore that part of it, you're never going to get rid of racism. Because if you can't get rid of the system, then you can't get rid of it's always going to keep happening. It's like poverty. If there's a system of poverty where it's like you have to break through the system in order for it to not happen no more, which I feel like it's very... and at the end of the day, I think you and I don't have any disagreement here about what's actually happening in the world. This is a purely semantic rabbit hole we've gone down for the last hour of this show. And I'd actually love to just kind of continue it, because I'm just interested in discussing this more. And like I said, I know Santana has feelings about it. I'd love to talk to Santana about it sometime. But I have the new evening show this evening, so I can't run the show long because I have to get through my prep for that. So I have Raven up, so I'll say hello to Raven. But before we let Raven get a word in edgewise, if she wants to, before we wrap the show, I do just want to read the one $5 YouTube super chat that's come in during this conversation. Just somebody who agrees with my definition. Jazz over on YouTube says, it feels like colloquial usage varies, but I see it as a way to indicate both systemic prejudice between races and between nationalities. And yeah,
I think racism is a little more fluid than this in terms of the way that people mean it. But we don't need to keep getting back to what my perspective on it is. We've spent an hour on it. How you doing, Raven?
Well, once again, I think racism for you looks a lot different for racism for me. Racism for you might look like, someone being very directly towards it, directly to your face. But racism for me could be like, I perfectly aced a job interview. I perfectly got my job interview. I did all that. And then once I get to the, I guess the facial or like the in-person interview, they kind of stumbled because I have what is considered a white name and not a African-American name. I can call that, even though they're not saying, hey, we're not going to hire you because you're not black. Even though that's not being explicitly said, I can be like, oh yeah, that. And this is a situation, once again, you may not experience, but I have known other black people where they're like, I can tell I didn't get the job just because I'm black. I have dreads. I have to, reform my hair a certain way because it's kind of seen unprofessional, even though we have different hair types. So that's just my whole idea of it. I feel like, yeah, it's also going to look different for certain people. I can agree with that. But I also think in the sense when you get pulled over and I get pulled over, I'm probably more worried about, well, does this cop like black people? Is he one of those? Yeah, I mean,
I agree about how all of this works. I think fundamentally the only disagreement that I think remains between us is just that we looked at the dictionary definitions of racism. Merriam-Webster lists two of them. I recognize that when somebody uses the word racism, it could be one or the other or some combination of both. And I think that both approaches to that can be correct. It seems like you really vehemently don't support people using the first definition that Merriam-Webster lists.
Oh, I never said that. I just said.
Can we let's see what Raven has to say, because I do need to wrap the show pretty soon here.
Yeah. So my understanding of it was that the first definition is a definition of the ideology of racism, but a person cannot be racism. They are racist. And to be racist, you have to benefit from the system. Whereas an example would be the Black American caller yesterday. If he were to go ahead and call the cops on a Somali neighbor, he'd be just as likely to end up either shot or arrested as his Somali neighbor, because he can't benefit from the system. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he cannot act racist because he's not benefiting from his actions. He's acting with prejudice, ignorance, and discrimination, but it's not acting with racism.
I do agree with the facts of the matter that you just laid out, but definitionally about how the words work, I have to push back, because any ist word, as it relates to its counterpart ism, racist versus racism, that if you look up the definition of a word like racist, it's just going to say of or relating to racism. So you're introducing this extra step of saying that you need to benefit from the power structure, which gets us to one of the two definitions of racism, not both of them.
Right. And I guess for that sense, that does kind of go back to the whole you're both right in the fact of you're arguing that the communication is effective, and Jake Geekman is arguing that the prescriptive definition is, the right one. You're both right. But I think that there is a lot of value in the benefiting from the systemic racism part when you're discussing this. Whereas I think if you're talking on small scale, sure, using the word racism is going to effectively communicate your point, but I don't think that it is the most correct way that you could effectively communicate it, when you could call it that they're acting with discrimination or prejudice.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's just, I don't think anybody on this call disagrees about any of the stuff that's happening out in the world. It just gets hairy when it comes to how we define words, and I think we have to be as concise and specific as we can be when we define words. And I feel like,
and I think if you're doing that, I think that Jay Geekman's way is more correct.
Well, when it comes to more correct, I can say prescriptively. We could argue prescriptively that would be the case. But the difficulty I have is just so many people who speak English mean the first definition when they say the word, that I have a hard time saying that that's not right.
That's fair. I think it's one of those, you're both right, and it just comes down to semantics. But one argument that you did use earlier was that the two warring nations right now, and you asked if the genocide was racist, and I would argue that it's not racist. I would say it's like ethnophobic or whatever, because it's not based in their skin color, it's based on where they're from. And I think that's an important distinction as well.
Yeah. I think I'm comfortable wrapping it there. I'm just trying to be a descriptivist. I'm just trying to use words that people know what I mean when I say them.
I guess I think why it's so like important for me to I guess give that like clear definition of like Raven said. I think just the systemic part about it, because I don't think I'm going to ever benefit from like the system, like what's called. I think Trump got billions of dollars from the IRS, and now he's giving it to like his supporters. Like I
hear you on that. The big point though is just that one of the definitions of racism that a lot of people use doesn't require that step.
Well, no, because when you're saying people, I don't know if you're assuming white people. I don't know if you're assuming black people, because I can say a white person 1000% benefits from a system rather than an African American. Now, why are they advocating for a system they don't benefit for? That's when I go into the xenophobia, prejudice, bigotry, But if the system was actually in place, they will find no benefit from the system, and that's just my own.
They'll probably find harm even.
Yeah, they'll probably find even more harm than good within the system, because I'm not trying to be funny. If there was now a movement to grab all the Somalians and throw them out, what's stopping fucking just racist people from just being like,
right,
now
we all know
Somalians
ICE will just call every black person a Somali.
And then every black person is a Somali, and that's just my whole point in the, like, it's very tricky in terms of what to call these people, because if you're not benefiting from the system, then you're not like
you're just an idiot. You're not racist.
Yeah, you're an idiot. You're stupid.
I need to exercise some authority about my schedule today and wrap the show, but I will read the last YouTube super chat. It's okay. Because Jazz said, moral of the story, just call them bigots instead. And I think that's reasonable advice from Jazz, because if I don't want to get bogged down in this discussion every time it comes up, maybe it would have been better if I called the guy bigoted yesterday, because I think everybody agrees that calling Somalis savages is a bigoted thing to say.
Yeah, no.
Even if it takes us an hour to untangle the rat's nest about whether or not that makes him racist based on what the color of his skin was.
Can I get 10 seconds left before you kick me?
Yes.
I am gonna. This might sound a little personal, but it's not. I'm gonna fall back and say that I do think it's a little lazy on a debate platform to fall back on what is generally considered acceptable, because I think you call Republicans out on that when they use terms that they generally define.
Yeah, I guess my pushback on that is that, like, when it comes to determining what people mean when they say words, that's kind of the only way we can do it. That's like a descriptivist.
But if it's a tool that you're going to use, I think you should also stand on it.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that if you're going to be a descriptivist is fundamentally making the argument ad populum. Because again, I guess it comes back to the thing I keep pointing out, which is that you'd be right about that if we're talking about the facts of the matter, but nobody's arguing about anything being different factually. We're just arguing about what we should use as the definition of words, which is more of an opinion. And I think that when it comes to opinions, you can go with what most people want. I don't think it's a matter of opinion whether or not immigrants should have civil rights or something like that, But I think it is fundamentally a matter of opinion how we define words. Oh, Raven's muted. Oh, no, there we go.
Well, that's about all I had. Thanks for having me. And thanks, Jake Eagman, for taking the time to educate me yesterday, because I used to be on Oscar's side. Now I'm on Jake Eagman's side. So
I really appreciate it. And once again, I appreciate everyone hear me out and having this good, faithful debate. I could definitely say, like, there was some areas that I was definitely like missing in, or some areas where I said one thing, like when you said it was racism with the whole ethnic group, and then I was like, and then I was like, I gotta pull back on that. Like, yeah, there are some things I do like kind of change my perspective on, in terms of like how I would then try to describe the word. Because to your point, I don't want to be that, well, actually, racism is a da-da-da-da-da, and then, like, I'm going to a whole spiel about a black guy who, like, said another black guy should be enslaved. Like, I feel like we missed the point then.
Well, yeah, and at the end of the day, we are, you know, we're all on the same team here in terms of what's going on in the world. So on that note, I'll kick you both for the algorithm. Thanks for coming up.
Bye. Love you all.
Love you all. Thank you.
W's in the chat for Jay and for Raven, who are both members of the moderation team, both on the platforms here where you watch the show and also over on the Discord, because this all kind of stemmed from some Discord drama that happened after I said on the show that a guy who called Somalis savages was being racist, even though he was black. So I kind of prompted the controversy a little bit. I stirred the pot a little bit. But again, it's just we don't disagree about what's actually happening in the world, and I don't think it's important to say that, like, I'm not going to be the well actually guy to say, like, well, actually you can be racist against white people in this hypothetical. No, I recognize that race is really tangled up with what's going on in the world right now, and it's not helpful to call. It's not usually helpful to call non-white people racist, is what I would say. Yesterday was a pretty extreme case. That guy was pretty horrible. But I think bigoted is maybe the term I'll just use because it pleases the most people. You know, I'm always trying to do what I do for my guests, which is ask them the definitions of the words they're using so that we can at least just understand what everybody means, because that's what we're all after. That was the show for today. Interesting bullying calls in the first half and a nuanced discussion about the definition of racism for the second half. If you like the show, you can go to the link tree in the bio and follow me on the other platforms. That helps me out for free and doesn't cost a dime. If you have a dime you want to spare, you can send it to my Venmo, Cash App, Buy Me a Coffee, or Patreon. And tonight at 7 p.m. Central Time, the Oskar Quentin's evening show starts. I have a special guest, Tom Evanstad, a local crazy person who's running for governor. So that'll be interesting. And the big announcement for those of you who stayed all the way to the end, the 300 of you who are still here after this long, friendly talk, if you're one of the $5 members somewhere on any of the platforms, that will get you access to an after show that will happen after the Sunday evening show. Because I cannot keep up with the live stream chats. I'm so sorry. Sometimes when I'm watching... Sometimes when I'm editing, I see the chat and I'm like, oh my God, this person was trying to get my attention for so long and I just feel so bad. But, you know, this thing's getting kind of out of hand. So for $5 a month, you'll get access to a after show Sunday evenings where I will read all of the chats and it'll just be me talking to you guys. I'm also not that hard to reach. Message me on Instagram. I still do. I don't respond to all my messages, but if you give me a message worth responding to, I will respond to it eventually. Anyway, that's the show today. Call your dads, everybody. I'm gonna call my mom and we're gonna talk about my dad. Goodbye, TikTok. And goodbye, YouTube.